Thursday, so Wednesday night. I think the second half of the week we're likely to see more in the way of brightness, and our temperatures should be slightly more representative of the seasonal average for the time of year. And you can cross over to Holy Island today until 12:35, and then again from 6:55 this evening onwards.
Thanks a lot. That's Abby with your latest weather forecast. Stay tuned. Total Sport coming up. We're heading over to the Stadium of Light. Nick Barnes and Gary Bennett standing by. All the build-up followed by full match commentary. Sunderland versus Middlesbrough.
On the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
play BBC Radio Newcastle,
and on your radio.
The sound of the North East is BBC Radio Newcastle.
But first, with your latest news at 11 o'clock, Joe Lonsdale.
There are reports that the chairman of the BBC, Richard Sharp, was involved in helping to arrange a guarantee on a loan of up to £800,000 for Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister.
Morning.
Mr Sharp, who at the time applied for the BBC job, insists there was no conflict of interest and that he simply connected the guarantor of the loan, a distant cousin of Boris Johnson, Sam Blythe, with the Cabinet
It's going to be a tough game.
Here's our political correspondent, Helen Catt.
Labour believes that Mr Johnson should have declared the arrangement and has referred it to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner.
I'll take a point.
Mr Sharp has told us there wasn't a conflict, but he simply connected at his request Mr Blythe with the Cabinet Secretary and had no further involvement whatsoever. A spokesman for Mr Johnson has dismissed the claims as rubbish and said that Mr Sharp had never given any financial advice to Mr Johnson and that all Mr Johnson's financial arrangements had been properly declared and registered on the advice of officials. A spokesman for the BBC said that the corporation plays no role in the recruitment of the chair and any questions are a matter of the government.
The Business Secretary, Grant Shapps, has written to energy companies demanding that they stop forcing poor households to switch to prepayment meters. Hundreds of thousands of people have been switched to the more expensive way of paying after failing to keep up with rising energy bills. Anne Pardew from Citizens Advice welcomed that call.
We've seen some really strong words from the government, which is welcome. It's time for energy suppliers now to step up and stop this harmful practice. If they don't, the government and the regulator must step in with stronger action. We'd also like to see more protections for people who are already on prepayment meters and struggling to keep them topped up.
An inspector from Northumbria Police who inappropriately touched a junior colleague and asked another of them for sex has been fired. A misconduct panel found John Hodgson's behaviour between October 2020 and April 2021 was a breach of professional standards and brings the force into disrepute. The panel said sexual relationships with the two women were an abuse of power and trust. A rogue trade roofer from County Durham has avoided jail after taking around £17,000 for jobs which were never completed. Paul Devine, who's 25 and from Cumbrian Way in Peterlee, admitted 7 offences related to unfair trading. He was given a 6-month prison sentence which was suspended for 2 years and ordered to complete 200 hours of unpaid work. The team behind the world's largest play structure at Alnwick Garden in Northumberland say up to 100 jobs are being created. The Kingdom of Lilidore, which will feature a magical village with ropes and slides connecting the homes of 9 clans, is opening this spring.
Good way to start your Sunday, I suppose.
Being held on the 23rd of February, when people can find out more about the range of jobs on offer. Buckingham Palace says a concert with world-famous entertainers will be among the events taking place to mark the King's coronation in May. The concert on the 7th of May will be shown on the BBC and feature a choir which includes NHS workers, refugees and LGBTQ+ singing groups. Here's our royal correspondent, Nicholas Witchell.
All the palace has said about Coronation Day itself is that there will be a procession from Buckingham Palace to take the King and Queen Consort to Westminster Abbey, and another procession to take them back to the palace, where they'll make an appearance on the palace balcony. The next day, Sunday the 7th of May, there'll be the Coronation Big Lunch, an opportunity for street parties. And then in the evening, the Coronation Concert at Windsor Castle. Finally, on Monday the 8th of May, the Big Help Out will take place, a day when people across the UK will be encouraged to volunteer to support their local communities.
That's your BBC Radio Newcastle News. I'm Joe Lonsdale.
The
sound of Sunderland.
Rolls it though to Vaughan. Vaughan inside the penalty. Oh my God! Ready! Whoa! What a screamer! David Vaughan. Here is Raphael against Vito Manone. Raphael.
Well, welcome to anybody tuning in now today. Exclusive match commentary
Great sport kicks off here.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
And Jacob Avallard. And the
Very
team,
good afternoon
BBC
from the
Radio
Stadium of
Newcastle.
Light. The temperature here about -15, rising to -18 by 2 o'clock. It's a cold and frosty morning, but we're well wrapped up. Benno's always well wrapped up. Before we give you the team news, the most important news we've just heard there about the coronation and whether you've got your invite to the tea party.
I've already got it. Tea party.
We know that the games have been moved to the Monday so Charles can come along, because he promised to summarise with you, didn't he? So
He did indeed.
Preston North End for King Charles III, alongside Sir Gary Bennett
And Nick Barnes.
Well, I'm just an afterthought these days. Good afternoon, Gary Bennett, MBE, alongside of me, Doctor Bennett. Any other appendages? I'm sure there are plenty to be added this coming year. The Sunderland team: Patterson in goal, Hume, Ballard, Bart, Elise. Evans, Neil, Roberts, Ahmad, Clark and Stewart. So the two changes: Bart for the suspended O'Nien, of course, and Aji Elise comes back in on the left for Lyndon Gooch. Middlesbrough make one change. Dara Lenihan comes in for Paddy McNair in the back four. He hasn't trained all week, he's been injured, so that's an interesting change for Middlesbrough. We're going to chat. Rob Mason, the Sunderland club historian's here as well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Might as well bring you in on this as
I think
well.
I can all hear me okay.
Firstly, your thoughts on that team. The thought about Elise is, having had a conversation with colleagues from BBC Tees, Radio Tees, is that it's his height is the factor here, because Borough have got Matt Crooks up front, 6'4", and they like to get the ball crossed into the box. I'm assuming that's why
16,
Tony Mowbray's
24.
gone with Aji Elise over Lyndon Gooch.
Well, yeah, I think Tony Mowbray is well aware that we lack height generally in the team. So when some of the players who've been injured, such as Elise and recently Danny Bart, who's the kingpin of the defence aerially, it's a big miss. It's one of the reasons why we've been susceptible to set pieces in particular. And so I think Elise would come back into the team anyway, though there's a big fight between him and Sirkin for that place, of course, if they were both fit. But Elise's height and his other attributes, but particularly his height, is a big plus at any time, and particularly against not just Middlesbrough but most teams in the Championship who are strong in the air.
Interesting, because on Friday Tony Mowbray ruled out Elise with Sirkin and Pritchard, but you, as you were saying, and we know you were the Foundation of Light show races in the red card event with Elise and Bailey Wright on Monday, and Elise just come from training.
Yeah, he just finished training. But also, again, Elise is left-footed. Natural. Left-footed, gives you a little bit more pace on that left-hand side. We know that Middlesbrough's two full-backs like to get forward. So, and, you know, we do know that Elise likes to get forward as well. So I think it just gives us that little bit more, shall we say, added balance.
The biggest talking point this week has been whether this is a derby or not. I mean, it's been on everywhere. Everyone just, it seems everywhere I go, everyone's had this. Is it a derby? Is it a derby? Is it a derby?
Welcome to all our viewers now watching, tuning in.
But from Sunderland's perspective, it's a local rivalry.
Derby or not a derby, it's, you know, it's a huge game. You know, we could be playing. You could be playing Manchester United. It's a huge game. You know, so you know you take the derby out of it. You're playing Middlesbrough. Okay, you're talking about maybe bragging rights to an extent, but overall, you know, it's a huge game because it's they're so close to you.
Yeah, I think you've got to make the comparisons. Compare it, for instance, with the London clubs. London clubs play umpteen derbies a season, but take Tottenham and Arsenal. Tottenham and Arsenal will always take playing each other as their big game. But if they're playing Chelsea or West Ham or whoever else it might be, it's a derby to them, but it's not the derby.
Yeah, correct.
Similarly with Sunderland and Middlesbrough, I think for Middlesbrough, the Sunderland game's a bigger game than it is for Sunderland looking at Middlesbrough. As a supporter, I would always trade you 10 wins over Middlesbrough for 1 over Newcastle. Newcastle is the derby. But regardless of whether you see it as a derby or not, it's a very, very important league game. As Benno says, it's a big game. It's, you know, if we beat Middlesbrough today, we're just a point behind them, and they, I think, start the game in 4th.
Good morning, Stephen Russell.
You know, so
welcome to the channel, mate.
I think it counts against us when we don't see it as such a big game as Middlesbrough do. Middlesbrough have had a good record against us in recent years, and it's possibly because they're more pumped up for it, because they see it as the game that they're looking forward to all season. And with the absence, just to finish, with the absence of time-wear derbies for the time being, let's face it, it is the derby at the moment. And there have been some big games, important games between Sunderland and Middlesbrough in the past, and it is a local derby. It's just not the local derby.
I mean, someone said this week, actually, Middlesbrough Leeds is probably a bigger game for Middlesbrough than than this
May
game.
well be.
But also, the point was made that the mood shift when Sunderland played at Middlesbrough earlier in the season was very much different to a regular league game at the Riverside, and so there is a different atmosphere in that particular fixture. I'm not so sure that's going to be the situation.
So what's your predictions today for the game?
Today, because I think even we saw at the beginning of the two games, really, Blackburn Rovers on Boxing Day, when the atmosphere was fantastic, it was electric.
My head says 3-0
until the sending off, and
my heart
even
says
to a degree after the sending off, the atmosphere in the Swansea game was good here
the
as well.
atmosphere was good.
Because
the fans were excellent with the Swansea game, because the fans last week did their level best to keep the team going. You know, knowing that they were playing 75 minutes with 10 men. Let's hope, for goodness sake, we play the full 90 with 11 men this afternoon, because that was obviously, that game last Saturday started off really nicely. It was a promising looking game. We were all excited, looking forward to it. Started quite good. Sunderland looked like they were going to had made the bet.
We're talking about the fads, those things that you really wanted to be part of when you were little.
Jilly Hope.
Early, mid-70s, there were loads of kids in my street who were just a few years older than me, and they all had rally choppers, and I was desperate for a rally chopper. Big high handlebars, high back seat, big wheel at the back, little wheel at the front.
And those older kids in the street, did they have like ribbons coming out the side of the handles?
Some did, yeah, like streamers, yeah. Only the really cool ones.
Yeah. Did any of them put a lolly stick in the back wheel to make it sound like an engine?
Yeah, and I had the lolly sticks, but no rally chopper.
Oh dear.
Jilly Hope.
Weekdays from 2.
BBC Radio Newcastle, making a difference in the North East.
Apologies, you were interrupted in mid-flow there, Benno.
Rob was in.
Rob, and you carry on. But nobody heard you going into flow. You can go into flow now.
I
flow
can
mode.
indeed, but we talk about Boxing Day against Blackburn. Full house. Today, different atmosphere. You know what you're going to get from. Obviously, it's going to be well supported from Middlesbrough supporters. Different altogether. So again, for the players themselves, they'll be dealing with a different sort of atmosphere here, and they've got to play with their heads. As simple as that.
Interesting. I was chatting to Tony about this. We're here, the interview, but he sort of played it down. But we've got Vincent Carrick, it's his dad, Michael Carrick, in the dugout for Borough, who's a Geordie, and one can assume he's probably grown up a Newcastle fan. And we've got Tony, who's a Middlesbrough fan, Middlesbrough born, in the Sunderland dugout. But he made a very good point in previewing the game about loyalties and where they lie in games like this. He said, look, every other game I want Middlesbrough to win. That's me, I'm a Middlesbrough fan. He said, what happens today is not going to make a marked difference to Middlesbrough season. I want Sunderland to win. I'm the Sunderland head coach. I'm a professional. I guess that's how Michael Carrick will approach it.
They're both very professional, and Tony Mowbray is obviously very experienced. Clearly, he's managed various teams against Middlesbrough in the past. It takes an extra edge to it to manage Sunderland against Middlesbrough in the past. But as you say, he's a completely professional person. Similarly, over the years, there's been plenty of people who've had connections with Sunderland or Middlesbrough who've come up against each other. A good example, somebody I heard on Radio Newcastle News this morning, of course, is Julio Arca, who I think we all remember scoring here for Middlesbrough against Sunderland. And of course, he did his job professionally, and then he didn't celebrate the goal because of how much Sunderland meant to him. You've got people like Grant Ledbetter or Lee Cattermole, other good examples of people who've served both clubs very, very well. But if you're a professional footballer or a professional football manager, the clue is in the word professional. You've got to go out and do your job. There's possibly one or two people in the past have not been able to do that and have found that very, very difficult to play against the team who's their boyhood club. But there's no question about that in the case of the people I've just mentioned, including Tony Mowbray.
It's a 12 o'clock kickoff, which, look, I mean, I think in other circumstances, if it hadn't been Middlesbrough today, there's that strong argument again how the TV companies are dictating kickoff times. I mean, it's not the great, it's not the longest journey for the Middlesbrough fans. But imagine that they picked Norwich today for a 12 o'clock.
Absolutely. Well, Norwich were on 12 o'clock. Okay, they just had to go to Coventry, but it was still a decent journey.
It's still a fair journey, isn't it? I mean, I just think, these 12 o'clock kickoffs. It's the thin edge of the wedge. Thin end of the wedge, if you like, in a way.
People, obviously, football takes the money from television, so they've got to cope with the fact that he who pays the piper calls the tune. I mean, from my point of view, living up in Scotland, a 12 o'clock kick-off is not a great idea. And from the point of view of my son on the far side of Canada, who gets up to watch every Sunday game in a 3 o'clock kick-off.
What time did he leave?
Well, he'll get up and watch it on TV, and a 3 o'clock kick-off for him normally is a 7 o'clock kick-off, but he set his alarm for 5 to 4 this morning. It's a 4 o'clock in the morning kick-off for him to watch in Canada. So, supporters and people who've travelled, long distances to get to the game, and obviously a lot of Sunderland supporters do travel some considerable distance to get to home games. That's just the way of the world now. For me, a bigger deal about the 12 o'clock kick-off is I rarely see good games when the kick-offs are early. It doesn't seem to quite work out, in terms of the traditional kick-off time of 3 o'clock.
Just a reminder of the teams. Elise in for Gooch this afternoon. I understand he might be injured, but we'll check that with Tony Mowbray afterwards, and Danny Bart for Luke O'Nien. I think I've just seen John Carver as well.
Have you?
Here, yeah. Just down
I think Gucci must be injured. He's not even on the bench.
Yeah, so I think it's Sherlock Holmes here. So I think that's probably they've got some substance in it. So Elise possibly hurried back for this particular game. So fingers crossed he is okay. I mean, we talked about derby memories. We had Darren Williams in the studio this week, a Borough lad, of course, who played for Sunderland. He was talking about a derby he scored, of course, at the Riverside. Came out the following day to find all the windows in his car had been put in.
Yeah, well, that's ridiculous, isn't it? That's ridiculous. And I'm sure, as Darren would have mentioned, the big story that day is Reedy. I
think he had his name emblazoned all over the car, so it was a target.
Reedy had picked him, of course, famously to do a man-marking job on Juninho, and then Juninho didn't play. And so Darren actually had a bit more licence to play himself and got if I remember rightly, it was the only goal in a 1-0 win. It was certainly a win. And yeah, I know Darren suffered the following day. And again, just talking about Middlesbrough Sunderland connections, somebody I've interviewed for the programme this afternoon is John Kay. Obviously, old teammate of Gary, and as when he was before he came to Sunderland, he had a couple of months spell on loan at Middlesbrough. So again, there's someone else who's local and played for both teams.
I mentioned John Carver because, of course, is he still in the Scotland setup?
I'm not quite. I
think
he
certainly was at the last time Scotland played.
I'm just thinking, obviously, Ross Stewart.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's possibly it.
Last time Scotland played, he was. I saw him there on the bench.
I think he is involved in the Scottish coaching. So I suspect that might be one reason why John is here, to have a look at Ross Stewart. And of course, it was the corresponding fixture down at the Riverside when Stewart did his thigh in the warm-up.
It was indeed.
What might have happened that night if he'd been fit? Because it was only the one goal, the free kick, that was the difference, wasn't it?
On our next away trip, I'll bring you a video. Tony Mowbray was playing. I was playing.
Right.
And I scored.
Did you?
We beat him 2-1 here.
Excellent memory.
And he tried to close me down, and I dropped my shoulder.
That's interesting you should say that.
And I shinned it in off my left foot.
Because we were talking after the press conference on Friday, we were having a chat with Tony, and he said, do you know when I made my debut? Do you know who it was against? And none of us could remember. Well, Tony made his debut for Middlesbrough against Newcastle.
Okay.
And he said up against Kevin Keegan.
Right.
Who he said he didn't actually ever have to tackle Keegan, because every time Keegan got near him, he would do a shimmy or a pass, or basically not get involved in going head to head with Tony Mowbray.
Yeah.
But I hadn't realised that. But then, of course, there were several of us at the press conference, not me, obviously, who weren't even born when Tony Mowbray made his debut. So put things into historical context. But I mean, in terms of derby matches, I mean there have been 3-3 the last one here, even though albeit it was February 2018. We're talking 5 years ago.
Long time. As I say, Middlesbrough have had a good record against Sunderland in recent years. I think we can all pick out games. I mean, historically, I think the most famous game between Sunderland and Middlesbrough was long before even. Well, I think I was about to say even George Foster was born, but George Foster would have been born, and it would have been 1928. It was actually 45 years to the very day before Sunderland won the Cup in 73. So it was May the 5th, 28. It was a game at Middlesbrough where both teams could have got relegated. Middlesbrough needed a draw to stay up. Sunderland needed a win to stay up, and Sunderland won 3-0. And with a superb performance by Albert McEnroy, the goalkeeper of Sunderland, who's the only goalkeeper ever to win a full England cap while on Sunderland's books. Monty sat on the bench for England but didn't get a full cap. Jordan Pickford didn't play for England until after he'd left Sunderland. But Albert McEnroy, Albert the Great, who also incidentally played for Newcastle in the 30s, he had one of his greatest games that day. Sunderland won 3-0, and in terms of the history books, that's definitely the most important game ever between the clubs. So you really go back, I'm talking a century, you go back further than a century. It's an age-old local rivalry.
It's fascinating. You just mentioned Jimmy there, sitting on the bench for England, and look, he's got an FA Cup winners medal and probably the most prized medal, and none more than that. Leeds final, but he's also, as well as the England situation, of course he's got a European Cup winners medal as well for sitting on the bench.
And
it's remarkable, really.
And of course he got that European Cup winners medal for sitting on the bench under Brian Clough. Again, Brian Clough, possibly the most famous man to have played for both Sunderland and Middlesbrough. And again, somebody I've featured in this afternoon's programme. I do a series in the programme called Testimonial Tales, where I look at players who've had testimonials, and today, for obvious reasons, I've picked Cloughie. And Cloughie's proud record of the number of goals he scored, of anybody who's ever played, who's ever scored 200 or more goals in English football, Cloughie's record, goals for games, is better than anybody. You name them: Jimmy Greaves, Alan Shearer, Arthur Rowley, Dixie Dean. Just think of anybody you like. Nobody comes close to Cloughie in terms of the number of goals he's got, to the number of games he's played, of players who scored at least 200 goals in football. And of course, while the rest of the country primarily thinks of Brian Clough as a manager, for Wearsiders and Teessiders, he was a player, and a fantastic player at that. He had 28 goals in 28 games at the point when he got his injury that effectively ended his career at Sunderland. And so think Erling Haaland kind of ratio. That's the kind of
well, we were
Clough
talking
was.
in the office this week about Dixie Dean, but unfortunately one member of our staff had never heard of him, which is which raised a few eyebrows.
Well, just tell them next time they have the pleasure of going to Goodison Park, if you've got to be quick, it's not going to be there for long. There's that magnificent statue of Dixie Dean on the corner of Goodison Park.
I wonder if they'll move it. Indeed, in fact, Michael Bridges suggested that the person in question should be hoyed in the river.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're a writer. It just crossed my mind, Brian Clough. It's there to be written. I'm sure someone will at some point, either a novel or a play about what would have happened. What if Brian Clough had become manager at Sunderland?
Well, let's get the play on the history of Sunderland done first. That's coming up.
That's coming in May.
That's coming up with the Empire in May, of course, and is shaping up very, very nicely. Yeah, Brian Clough, of course, he started his managerial career at Sunderland in terms of the fact he was put in charge of the youth team.
Welcome.
Took Sunderland to the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup in 1965. First time they'd gone so far in the competition. After Cloughie left, they then got to the final in 66, won it in 67, won it again in 69. Cloughie led some of the foundations for that. And oddly enough, just before the game, somebody I bumped into, a friend of Gary's, Colin Beasley, was part of those youth teams in the late 60s. Still a regular season ticket holder here at Sunderland. And Cloughie set off on that managerial reign before obviously he went down to Hartlepool, then to Derby, and so on and so forth. Everybody knows what a fantastic job he did in terms of managing Derby to the League Championship. Very unfortunately getting knocked out of the European Cup to Juventus at the semi-final stage in a game that lots of people think was rigged. And
never. And
then, well, I say lots of people think, unproven. Let's just say Juventus were docked 15 points this very week, weren't they? And then we've got obviously the fact that with Nottingham Forest, I saw them play at Sheffield United in the second division and they lost 2-0, and I think that was the last game they lost. They went on a fantastic run, got promoted. Following season, having just got promoted, won the league title. Following season, won the European Cup. Following season, retained the European Cup. With all due respect, Nottingham Forest, not Liverpool, not Manchester United, not Sunderland, not Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, he took them to retain the European Cup. And again, looking at connections here on Wearside, big part of that team, of course, was Martin O'Neill.
Indeed. Look, before you go, I need to bring us up to date, and we've talked about this last weekend, the memorial plaque that you'll be unveiling on the Reading game on February the 11th for those fans that have lost their lives going to, from, or at Sunderland matches. I know there was a feature in the Sunderland Echo this week as well. There's been a response. I think there's a fair number of those relatives have been in touch.
Correct.
Actually.
Yeah, I was in touch with Joanne from the Heaven Branch of the Supporters Club just last night. She was telling me she'd just come off the phone to the relatives of one of those people, and I think that was up to 5 different families that have now made contact. And we are certainly looking, the details can be found, I think, on the Heaven Branch's Facebook page for people to get in touch. And certainly if we can track down as many relatives or close friends of those who've sadly lost their lives following Sunderland over the years, we'd certainly invite them and welcome them to the unveiling of the plaque, which you say is going to be on the morning of the next home game against Reading on the 11th of February. And it's appropriate with it being the Reading game, because a couple of those people who sadly lost their lives were travelling back from the 1973 FA Cup replay at Reading, and so it's appropriate that Reading should be our visitors on the day that we unveil the plaque.
Lovely, Rob, thank you. It's noticeable that there's more people around us on a match day when it's cold, and I thought it was because they loved us, but it's because we've got heaters. and Rob's clinging on here, trying to stay on as long as possible because it's the warmest place in the stadium. But Rob, thank you ever so much for joining us.
All the best.
We'll chat
Let's hope for a good result this afternoon.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that Reading game and the memorial plaque on the day, because that's the next home game. So thank you very much indeed to Rob. A quick recap on the...
You know what's going to happen?
There'll be a power cut.
We're going to be surrounded by maybe 1,000. Do you know why? This is what we call warm space.
We are a warm... You're a warm space anyway.
This is warm space.
On a normal
They're
day.
all coming here.
Everyone's flocking to the back of the...
We're inviting all supporters to come up and have their 5 minutes in the warm space.
Yes, and see if you can
That's
identify the players down there from 4,000 miles. But it is the warmest place in the stadium this afternoon. Recap the Sunderland team: Patterson, Hume, Ballard, Bart, Elise, Evans, Neil, Roberts, Ahmad, Clark and Stewart. Middlesbrough, Stephan in goal. Smith, Fry, Lenihan, Giles, Howson, Hackney, Force, Akpom, McGree and Crooks up front. Let's get a roundup now of all the action from the weekend. Of course, it's Sunday. A lot took place yesterday. There's more to come today because this is a 12 o'clock kickoff. And we'll be joining a man who can probably recite Dixie Dean's scoring record through all his time at Everton, Colin White.
No, I can't. And even if I could, I'm not sure that's how I would spend the next 3 or 4 minutes. But Barnsley and Bennett, thank you very much for the moment. We will be back at the Stadium of Light with Nick and Gary in about 5 minutes' time. With it being a 12 o'clock kickoff today, that game at the Stadium of Light, pretty much the first of all the fixtures across the leagues this afternoon, so obviously no other scores to bring you yet. But in the Premier League, 3 games coming up later on. Leeds United at home to Brentford at 2 o'clock. Brentford could move back into the European spots if they win at Elland Road this afternoon. Manchester City could move 6 points clear of Newcastle United. We'll come back to Newcastle shortly, but the Man City are at home to Wolves at 2 o'clock. And then at 4:30 it is Arsenal against Manchester United, first against fourth, 13-time winners versus 20-time winners. Mikel Arteta versus Erik ten Hag.
I think the history and the clashes and the way those two clubs have competed, it tells you everything that you need to know before a match. It's a huge game in the league, in the country, around the world, and we have to prepare for that. And obviously the table says what it says this season right now, but our main focus is on being prepared for a big match.
I think they even improved during the first half of the season, and there's a really good spirit as well in the team. So we know what to do, and we have to be really good. We need a really good performance, but if we do, I think we have a good chance also to get out of that performance a good result.
It is going to be a cracker. 4:30 Arsenal against Manchester United. Commentary of that one as well as the Man City Wolves game actually on BBC Radio 5 Live. But yesterday Newcastle United drew 0-0 against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. That is now 6 consecutive clean sheets in the Premier League for Newcastle. And yesterday was the 15th top flight game, unbeaten in a row for the Magpies. A new club record. Here is their head coach Eddie Howe talking to Matthew Racebeck.
Yeah, very proud of that statistic. I think it's very tough to go that length of time unbeaten in the Premier League with the quality of the teams that we've played. So real credit to the players for how consistent they've been.
It was really good to see Bruno in the team today, and obviously a big relief for you given the concern last week.
Yeah, we were positive after the scan, but we didn't know that he would play in this game, to be honest. But he improved so quickly during the week. The medical team were happy for him to train on Friday. Bruno felt really good, so there was no reason why he couldn't play.
Indeed, and Newcastle fans delighted to see him playing. There is more from Eddie Howe and an interview with the midfielder Sean Longstaff as well, available on BBC Sounds. Newcastle have the first leg of their League Cup semi-final away at Southampton on Tuesday night. After last week's River Wear derby in the Women's Championship, both Sunderland and Durham back in league action today. The winners from last Sunday, Sunderland, looking to keep up the momentum, but also trying to make up for a heavy defeat against these same opponents earlier on in the season. You may remember it was part of a double-header. It was played at the Stadium of Light, but Birmingham City beat Sunderland 4-0 that day. This game this afternoon at Birmingham is a 2 o'clock kickoff. Durham, meanwhile, who were, of course, on the receiving end of that 3-2 derby defeat last weekend, welcome Southampton to Maiden Castle at 12 o'clock. The match does go ahead after the artificial surface passed a pitch inspection around about an hour ago, and striker Saoirse Noonan says they are looking to put last weekend's game firmly behind them.
Yeah, look, it's been tough, but I think we have to park it now and kind of move on. And yeah, look, we have a big game here Sunday, and first game of 2023 at home. So yeah, look, one that we're looking forward to. And I think we need to put in a performance for ourselves and for our fans, because it is important, and we haven't been getting the results. But look, hopefully we can start one Sunday.
And yes, Southampton up next. A team who've had a really good start to life in the Championship, and a team we haven't played before, so a little bit of a different test for us.
Yeah, of course. I think you see there's been loads of different results throughout the season, and as I said, look, we're just focusing on ourselves now, and we need 3 points, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. We definitely heard all the fans down in Sunderland, so we need them more than ever now behind us, and we hope they all come out on Sunday and get right behind us again, and hopefully get the win.
That is Saoirse Noonan there at Durham against Southampton. A 12 o'clock kickoff, Sunderland's game in the Championship at Birmingham. A 2 o'clock kickoff. Non-league wise yesterday, not an awful lot went ahead because of the weather, but there was a terrific draw away from home for Blythe Spartans. 2-0 down at Gloucester City in National League North after just 14 minutes, then down to 10 men. 10 minutes later, Nicky Deverdix was sent off, but Troy Chiabi scored just before half-time. Isaac Walker levelled just after the hour mark, and Blythe held on for a 2-2 draw, much to the delight of their manager, Graham Fenton.
Showed a load of character, really good understanding of how to play against a side with an extra body. So delighted with the lads. It was just a mad 6-7 minutes where we started really well, got on top of them, and then had a mad 6-7 minutes where we conceded 2, and the referee decided it would be a really good decision to send someone off for an innocuous challenge. It wasn't even a yellow card, never mind a red, and that's what the linesman on our side said. So disappointing that happened, but yeah, we'll focus on our lads, and just really delighted with how they reacted and came back in the game and got a magnificent point.
Yeah, well done to them. Blythe Spartans drawing at Gloucester City yesterday. The only other non-league game of interest to us that survived yesterday was in the Scottish Lowland League. It finished Cumbernauld Colts 3, Berwick Rangers 3. Berwick were ahead twice, but then also needed a 94th minute equaliser to even take a point in the end. So well done to Berwick for that point away from home. In rugby union, Newcastle Falcons ended their European Challenge Cup campaign with a 35-21 victory over the Irish side Connacht at Kingston Park yesterday. Results earlier yesterday meant that Falcons couldn't go through even with a victory. Tries from the scrum half Mickey Young and the two Argentines, or two of the Argentines, Matias Orlando and Matias Carreras, had put the Falcons 21-14 up at half-time. The Connacht prop Finlay Beelum actually scored a hat-trick of tries, a couple in the first half, one in the second, but Josh Barton and Pete Lucock were the Falcons' try scorers in the second half and secured all 5 points for them. But ultimately, in terms of qualification, like I say, to no avail. In basketball, in the BBL Championship on Friday night, Newcastle Eagles men beaten by 5 points at home to Manchester Giants. The Eagles 12 points up at the end of the first quarter, but then lost the second quarter by 14, lost the third by 11. And even though they did win the final one, they were far too far behind. So 92-97 their defeat. And of those 92 points, 83 of them shared between just 4 players as well. Javion Hamlet, Justin Gordon, Kyle Johnson, Hassan French. Not getting a huge amount of support in terms of point scoring. This afternoon, Newcastle Eagles on the road. They are away at the Bristol Flyers. That one is a 4 o'clock tip-off. Do you think there'll be a full house today? In the WBBL, yesterday, terrific win for Durham Palatinate by a couple of points over Caledonia Gladiators, 69-67 in the end. Harriet Ottawil Soulsby with a huge 28-point goal, so well done to them. The less said, the better, quite frankly, about Newcastle Eagles' game in the WBBL at home to London Lions yesterday. London Lions, who are a very strong side, which is my way of caveating the fact that it finished 123 points to 43. So a heavy, heavy defeat for the Eagles at the arena yesterday. In the ice hockey today, in North Division 1, Whitley Warriors, who seem to be playing Billingham Stars every week at the moment, are away down on Teesside again today. This one is a league match, a 5:30 face-off for that one. Some quick bits from around the world then. At the Australian Open tennis, the women's top seed Iga Swiatek is out. She lost to the Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina in the 4th round. The 7th seed Coco Gauff, who beat Emma Raducanu earlier on, was also beaten as well, 7-5, 6-3 by Yelena Ostapenko. On the men's side, Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime then became the 6th men's top 10 seed to go out. He was beaten by the Czech player Jiří Lehečka, who had already knocked out Cameron Norrie. That was also in the 4th round as well. So quite a few surprises across both singles draws. In the boxing, Liam Smith stopped Chris Eubank Jr. in 4 rounds last night to bring a bitter rivalry to, in terms of a boxing match, a pretty explosive end. He'd been unbeaten, Eubank Jr., since 2018. The first stoppage defeat of his career was last night as well. He was knocked down twice in quick succession in the 4th round, and then the referee stopping the contest. In netball, England have lost their quad series opener. Australia came from behind to seal a 61-55 victory in Cape Town yesterday. Snooker, Judd Trump beat Sean Murphy 6-2 at the World Grand Prix in Cheltenham, so he will play Mark Allen in today's final. And in golf, the former Open champions Shane Lowry and Francesco Molinari were sharing the lead with Minwoo Lee going into the final round of the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship, which is now well underway.
Well,
final round.
he must have enjoyed doing it, because I mean,
and Minwoo Lee now the joint.
The times I've asked him if he wants to join us on our chat and
17 under,
join up with us, and he's just knocked it back, so he can't be really that bothered, can he?
Shane Lowry back on 15 under. They're all about 2/3 of the way through their rounds roughly, so that will come to what is looking like a fairly exciting conclusion quite soon as well. But for us, that's 25-12. It is time to head back to the Stadium of Light then. It's a 12 o'clock kickoff between Sunderland and
I've said all along,
in
a
the
negative
Championship,
comment, any comment, whether it's negative or positive on YouTube, it's positive because you're getting
The
somebody.
Make a Difference Awards.
Everyday acts of kindness make a huge difference to people across the North East.
And we want to honour and recognise those who make a difference where we live. Make a difference.
Find out how you can nominate someone on BBC Radio Newcastle Breakfast with me, Matt Bailey, tomorrow.
Together, we can make a difference. BBC Radio Newcastle.
Total Sport.
Live from the Stadium of Light.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
We'll hear from Tony Mowbray before kick-off at 12. Sunderland's team shows 2 changes. Bart for the suspended O'Nien, Elise for what we understand is an injury to Lyndon Gooch. He's not on the bench. That means that there's space on the bench for Ellis Taylor this afternoon, who I think has been quite impressing, Tony Mowbray, from what he's said about Taylor since he came back from Hartlepool, where bizarrely they didn't understand where or what Taylor's position was. But Tony Mowbray said what he's seen of him in training, he likes what he's seen. So some reward for Ellis Taylor this afternoon is on the bench. Interesting, Middlesbrough and Michael Carrick, because when Chris Wilder was sacked and Michael Carrick took over, Middlesbrough were 4th bottom of the Championship. Now they're 4th top, and since Carrick took over, they've only lost 2 league games. One was right at the start of his taking over, and that was at Preston, and the other was at Burnley.
So what's all this over? What's it started over
one
then?
draw in that run at home to Bristol City, and they've been basically on a run of continuous wins, which, as we know, and as Tony Mowbray's often spoken about, is a very hard thing to achieve in the Championship. So, it just shows you the measure of the challenge that Sunderland have got this afternoon.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. We all know that, and we all know about teams going on good runs. And, I would imagine Michael Carrick will be saying, I would like this to continue, because there's always a team, especially when it comes near the end of the season, who's in momentum, who go on a good run. We've been there ourselves, and somewhere along the line they are going to lose a game. That's a fact, and it's just a case of how they're going to react to that game. And from Sunderland's point of view, can we go on a run, and put a few games together and go on, that momentum takes us forward. We've got to look at where Sunderland are at the present moment. We don't look out of place. We're doing a lot better than I would say anybody expected us to do. In fact, when we've seen what we've done this season up to now, people are thinking, well, we could have been even maybe in the top 6. It's all ifs and buts. You're talking about, we can all go back to the game against Middlesbrough. In that one, we lose Stewart. All of a sudden, we lose our momentum, we lose our shape. And then for the next 8-10 weeks, we've got no striker. So we've had to cope with that. Now, if, we're talking about now with the window open, we all know that we do need another striker, because, we cannot just rely on Ross Stewart. just in case anything happens. Who knows, we might get Ellis Sims back, we might get another forward back. But the thing is that if we can get the players back from who's injured, I think overall when you look at the squad, you're thinking, yeah, we've got a good squad, and if we can put a run together, who knows where we might end up.
It's an interesting fortnight, isn't it? Today's game against Middlesbrough, a big test and benchmark of the level in this division. And next weekend, Fulham. Now, we don't know what sort of side Fulham are going to put out, but one way or the other, you're going to a Premier League club. It's going to be a
good footballing game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's the same with Middlesbrough. Now, if you would have, this game was about what, maybe 6-8 weeks ago, people would have been coming into this game thinking that Sunderland should win this game, especially where Middlesbrough are. And that's all about confidence. It's all about getting results. Yes, it is Middlesbrough. They are on a good run, and we're putting them out as though to think we're putting them on a pedestal in a sort of way, and thinking if we get a draw, it's a good result. Come on. I just think that, man to man, I think if, and we keep mentioning this, if our players play to the level what they can play, Sunderland will win the game.
I wonder what Michael Carrick's secret is. I mean, he had 3 games in charge at Man United back in 2021 as a caretaker manager. Then he won 2 of them and drew 1 of them, so he's got a very good record. In fact, his record at Manchester United in 3 games, the win percentage is the same as at Middlesbrough, 66%, I think. But he has obviously come in straight away. He's got them playing. Interesting when you look at the way they line up. All their goals come from the front 4. No one goal. I'm not sure Lenihan, because he's back in the side this afternoon. He's been injured. I don't think he's scored. I might be wrong. But basically, taking that out of the equation, 1 goal from the 6 players at the back, and that's Hayden Hackney. All their goals come from the front 4. Force, Akpom, McGree and Crooks. As a coach, Tony Mowbray, will he look at that and think, right, look, let's try and let's play high and let's get all the bodies in the opposition penalty area?
Yeah, yes. You can't take it away from them. They're in form. They are a threat, but it's something which you've got to deal with. But also, you've got to think that you are a threat. You've got to be thinking that, we've got the likes of Ahmed. If we can get him the ball, he will cause them problems. Roberts will cause them problems. We know what Ross Stewart can do. Now, yes, going forward, Middlesbrough, as you just mentioned, their front 4 score goals, okay? But then you look at Sunderland going forward, as their 2 centre-backs being tested, Ross Stewart, his movement, it'll cause them problems. Roberts, yes, the 2 full-backs like to get forward. Now, are they going to gamble by doing that and leaving space behind where we may be able to capitalise? That's something which Tony Mowbray will be looking at.
Indeed, just a reminder, 2 changes for Sunderland. Bart and Elise in for O'Nien and Gooch, and the bench is Bass, Wright, Barr, Diaku, Bennett, Mishu and Ellis Taylor. So Ellis Taylor getting a chance, and I think that's down really to where Tony Mowbray is at the moment.
Has Roberts been
bodies.
to Middlesbrough? Was he there?
He was. He was on loan at Middlesbrough. Interesting, because he started his career at Fulham as well. We go back, and he's back there next week. So I suppose that's added incentive for Roberts. You've sort of taken the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say about the players themselves. Tony Mowbray was saying that the players, derby games, big games like this, he wants it to get into their system. He wants them to realise it's a big game. He wants the players to run out and realise it means something.
Of course, you've got to sample it. That's what he wants. He wants them to taste it. So, some of these players who are playing today or have never had a taste of a derby game. They don't know what it's like. We keep talking about a Newcastle Sunderland derby. We can talk about it, but you've got to sample it. You've got to be there. You've got to play in it to understand what it's all about. And it's just like today, Sunderland against Middlesbrough. Yeah, you've got to go and play. You've got to sample it. You've got to taste the atmosphere to understand what it's all about.
Well, Sunderland's last win here against Middlesbrough was back in 2008. There've only been a handful of games since then, and that was 2-0. Michael Chopra got both goals. I mean, for the life of me, I can't remember it. But
2 goals did he get?
Yeah, oh yeah, it must have been a memorable game. Well, clearly wasn't, was it? I mean, in fairness, it was 15 years ago. You know, we're all getting a bit older. Well, remember the last one, the 3-3 draw here in that fateful season, that relegation season. So Sunderland about due a win against Middlesbrough. I mean, over the years in all competitions, if you like your statistics, Sunderland have won 61 of these encounters. They've drawn 38 and lost 49. So the balance is in Sunderland's favour. But as I say, going into today's game, before or yesterday and Friday night's game, Sunderland were 10th and Middlesbrough 4th. So it's always very difficult when the games are spread across a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, to actually say, you know, where exactly are you in the table. But I think, I agree with you, Sunderland on their day, on their afternoon, when they play as they can play, are the equal of anybody in this league.
Of course, yeah. You know, and you're thinking, you know, what players would you swap? You know, in the both teams, which players would you swap over?
I mean, you look at Marcus Force.
Yeah, but there's nobody. There's nobody who's jumping out at you and say, "Oh yeah, I'll take him."
No.
But if you say the other way round, what players would Middlesbrough take?
They'd certainly take Ross Stewart, wouldn't they?
They'll take Ross Stewart. They might
and Ahmad.
And
probably Roberts.
Yeah. So you know, that's how you look at it, and maybe that's how you gauge it, and that's what you say is, if the likes of your Roberts and your Ahmad and your Stewarts all play to their potential, and your Clark play to their potential, you will cause them problems. That's my opinion. You know, and I'm saying, you know, for Middlesbrough, yeah, they're a good team. As a team, they are a good team, but there's nobody who's like jumping out at you and saying, "Oh, we've got to make sure we're wary of him." Yes, we all know about the fullbacks, we all know about Akpon, you know, it can cause you problems, but on the other side of it, they all know about Roberts, they all know about Clark, they all know about Stewart, they all know about Ahmed, what problems they can cause.
And I have to say that was a very good opinion.
Thank you.
So let's get the opinions now of the Sunderland head coach, Tony Mowbray.
Tony, you touched on injuries. You didn't want to go too much into it, but Sirkin, Elise, Pritchard, we've sort of seen in the last few weeks, Embleton. Yeah. Are any of them close at the moment?
Yeah, not for the weekend, they're not. Maybe for the week after they might be, if they get a full week's training in. But there's a bit of frustration because, you know, sometimes all in one area of the pitch your injuries come. You know, we've had all the strikers unavailable at some stage, and then we went through a spell with all the defenders. This moment we've got a bit of an issue with the defensive situation, but hopefully we can resolve it. And we're waiting on one player having a scan today, and let's see what the scans suggest. If the scan's not too bad, then there's every chance he'll play. If it's not, he won't.
There's been a lot of speculation, obviously, about incomings, outgoings. One name that has been mentioned is Bailey Wright, possibly leaving. And I know in the last month or so, you've always made a point of you really don't want to see players leaving because of the problems that you've got right now. I mean, is Bailey someone you could see going this window?
I think at this moment it's and I talk to all the players when I feel there's any issues around them. I think at this moment Bailey Wright is very much part of our setup, and there's an opportunity potentially for him to start this game if a scan goes right or wrong for us this afternoon. But so it's not in my mind to think about Bailey Wright staying or going, and I'm not sure publicly I want to talk about people's situations. What I would say to you is, if everybody is fit and available in our squad, there is probably an overload of 5 or 6 central defenders that if I want to play 3, we could have 1 or 2 sitting on the bench. If I play in 4, you can't play 3 centre halves on the bench. It's so yeah, I think it's them private conversations with coaches and players are because I'm also think very much about the individual and what's right for them. And so if you're talking about a potential footballer of 32 or 33-year-old and he finds himself with everybody fit, doesn't make the bench, the human side of me thinks, what do you want to do? Do you want to sit here and come in and train every day, or do you want to explore other avenues, and if we can explore other avenues which allows you to play football at an age where you might not, 2 or 3 years to go, then I'm sympathetic towards that. But we have to put the football club first, and the football club needs people at certain times. We need them, and they won't be going anywhere.
I don't know how much you can say about incomings, obviously, but you sort of hinted that because there's nobody in yet, but you're looking to do permanent deals rather than loans in this window. Would that be fair?
Listen, we always would want to do permanent deals, because then you put in your own players in the building. I think at this moment, if the opportunity for the right player on loan comes along, we wouldn't turn that down if we felt he was going to help us. And yet the continuous search for bringing your own players in is always there, because you bring loans in, so we know Diallo will leave us in the summer.
I've not gone. I didn't hear anything because I was upstairs just putting my daughter upstairs.
In the summer, and them holes that are in the team need filling, and so you're always looking for your own players. It's just whether you can do them in January, and it's a much easier, better market to try and bring in your own players in the summer. So if the right player in January comes along, and we know he's only filling a hole, but he's helping the team win football matches, it's something we potentially would do.
Much has obviously been made of you being from Middlesbrough this weekend, and also on the other bench, Michael Carrick's from Wallsend, and it's probably rare this day and age that you get a match like this when both the coaches are locals, if you like. I mean, does that make any difference? Does it add a little, obviously adds a bit of colour, but do you think it makes a difference to the actual overall game itself?
I don't think so. I think the game's about the footballers and about the supporters. It's not about coaches. I talk a little bit about Michael there, basically, because I think
it is a strange one. I mean,
as an experienced coach, I see a modern day football coach in Michael Carrick, and that's only through a few 5 or 10 minute conversations with him. I see a guy with emotional intelligence that I think modern day footballers need coaches who are empathetic to them, who put their arm around them, who take them along, who do have discipline, and they have to toe the line, but are not robotic about, if you don't do that, you're out. It's modern day life. You have to feel the situation, and I feel that on Michael. I think he's a very bright guy, and I'll be interested to as the years roll on, see where he does and see where his career takes him. But at this moment, we should just look forward to the challenge of this game.
When you look at our squad,
a team on a real high,
when we're all firing on all cylinders and we're playing on form, do you think we could beat them?
From home, apparently the last game against Millwall, they found a way to get over the line. But Millwall really pushed hard second half, and so we're not playing against a team that we should fear. We're playing against a team that are doing really well and have really good strengths, but a game that we believe at our best we can win.
I don't know how superstitious or what you are, but I mean, a lot's been made of that as well, that it's 2008 the last time Sunderland actually beat Middlesbrough at the Stadium of Light. I mean, Benno would dismiss that as just nonsense, but sometimes you wonder if there's a rhyme or reason for these runs.
We just have to keep reminding ourselves as well the fact, like, where we've been and where we've come from. And didn't get too disheartened.
Looking forward to the challenge. Sometimes you could say derby games, they become.
The fact is,
doesn't really matter whether they're at home or away because of the emotion of the game.
Long time. Didn't be too disheartened, too negative.
I think the supporters have got a huge part to play. I know they get mostly wrapped up in the
we've got Luke O'Nine joining the Sky Sports commentators today up in the gantry. He's there with Don Goodman, so at least he's doing something today.
I would just urge the fans to be as they are, as positive as they are, and that's why I say to the team, we have to play forward, we have to put the ball in the box, we have to be aggressive, we have to be an attacking team, because it wraps the fans up in the emotion.
But you're right, Anne, you've got to think where we've come from. I mean, if they do get hammered today or whatever, didn't can, slagging the team off and saying a load of shite, this and that, let's just be respectful.
The emotion is dragging the ball
to
the whole team's goal, and
teams that are simply better and stronger than us. It's
going
to happen.
We need to try and make them feel the massive pressure, not only the 11 players they're playing against, but the 45,000 who are cheering them on from the sidelines.
And finally, for me, Darren Williams was on our programme. Borough lad, scored for Sunderland at Borough. and says how the following day the windows of his car were put in. As a player, do you have any memories of playing and that sort of? I mean, that's the intensity of the game, isn't it?
I suppose it can be, and I suppose it's becoming more and more. You know, we've all heard the stories of what's happening at Goodison, at Everton this week, and the players.
Please, Gooch isn't playing what someone's just posted.
We had a chat about pressure this week, and
someone's just said, please, Gooch
he goes to Everton, his car gets surrounded, and yet he's only played 10 minutes and 7 minutes off the bench. It's modern day football, the passion, the emotion of football, it's so high profile, and
similar to 09,
social media impacting it constantly. It's a different
players.
world from when I played, we played, and I just want the players to play with the emotion and embrace the intensity of this game, but don't forget to play, don't forget to express your talent, because I think the best players affect games with their talent, and we've got some really, really special footballers, and it's important that they turn up and show that at the weekend.
Nick Barnes and Gary Bennett, MBE.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
What's our fixtures?
Tony Mowbray, who
today,
made nearly as many appearances for Middlesbrough as Gary Bennett did for Sunderland. 424 appearances for Middlesbrough.
Excellent. Good player
just a little bit short of the number of appearances.
Yeah, he was a good player.
He was indeed, and he managed the club as well for 3 years, 153 games back between 2010 and 2013, as the massive "This is Wearside" flag is hauled up over the Roker end, slowly being dragged up over the fans in the Roker end, displaying the old crest, of course, and the landmarks of Wearside as the huge red and white flag slowly unfurled. It's massive, isn't it? Doesn't that look... everyone's taking pictures. I see everyone on their cameras, on their phones below us here, all taking pictures of the magnificent sight of the flag. I'm sure you'll see it on social media. It does look rather spectacular. The Spirit of 37 have done a fantastic job there. I know their plans were thwarted this week. They wanted to do a display of the Pension Monument, but unfortunately that was stopped in its tracks by the club for one reason or another. But this looks equally spectacular.
Very impressive.
And a great atmosphere brewing in the Stadium of Light ahead of the game as we await the two teams, the entrance of the two sides. The referee is James Linnington today. He's only been in charge of one Borough game this season. That was at Reading, when Reading beat Middlesbrough 1-0 in August.
I'm just worried about the ones who's underneath.
I know. I bet the last thing you want to do is be standing underneath there for 10 minutes, isn't it?
Huh?
You think,
I want to see the game. Right.
They've hauled it up 5 minutes before kick-off. We're going to stand here for 5 more minutes underneath. Can't see a thing going on. I do exactly know what you mean.
The game's over.
Yeah, so you missed this, you missed that.
Massive flag draped over the stadium.
He's had 3 Sunderland matches this season. One of them was at Sheffield United when Dan Neil was sent off. He was at Luton, the 1-1 draw, and he was here when West Bromwich Albion won 2-1. So James Linnington is the referee this afternoon. Sunderland, Patterson in goal. Hume, Ballard,
I don't think we'll get
and Elise,
too many people
Evans,
in our
Neil,
streams today,
Roberts, Ahmad, Clark and Stewart is the starting 11. And for Borough, it is Zach Steffen, who's on loan from Manchester City, in goal. The back 4 is Tommy Smith, Dale Fry, Darragh Lenihan comes back in from injury, and Ryan Giles, who's on loan from Wolves. In front of the 4, Johnny Howson and Hayden Hackney, 20-year-old from Redcar, who has impressed this season. And then the front 4, Marcus Force, Chuba Akpom, Riley McGree, who of course was in Australia in the Australia squad with Bailey Wright at the World Cup. And up front is Matt Crooks, 28-year-old journeyman, if you like, who began his career with Manchester United but was signed from Rotherham after 2 years there in 2021. Rotherham had signed him from Northampton, but they've thrown him up front, Michael Carrick, and clearly is a foil for Chuba Akpom as James Linnington in a turquoise blue top leads the two teams out. Sunderland in their red and white stripes, of course, are wearing their red tracksuit tops at the moment. Borough will be in blue. They're wearing blue tracksuit tops as they're led out by their goalkeeper, Zach Steffen. And the flag bearers on either side waving their flags, and the big "This is Wearside" flag is still across 2/3 of the Roker end, and all those underneath it can only now start to realise, the players on the pitch, as it's refurled. Would that be the right word? It's been furled now. Indeed. After being unfurled, and is now disappearing into the lower reaches of the Roker end, and all those fans now have sight of the players, and we're grateful up here that Middlesbrough have got nice big bold white numbers on the backs of their shirts, as the Middlesbrough players given a Wearside welcome down below us. As we were saying, the temperatures today are freezing, so I don't think the players are going to be standing around much, as the players are announced over the public address system. Not that I think we can't hear them up here, such as the noise, but judging by the cheers down below, most of the fans in the stadium can hear what is being said across the public address system. So, Middlesbrough, who come into the game on the back of 4 straight league wins. They did lose in the FA Cup 5-1 to Brighton, but clearly that game was not a priority for Michael Carrick. Lots of talk, isn't there, amongst fans that Sunderland could face Middlesbrough in the playoffs.
What we don't want is a sending off of us. We didn't want another player that was sending off.
But we're seconds away then. So about to get underway, Middlesbrough attacking the north end of the stadium. Their fans in the upper reaches of the north stand in their blue. They tap to get the game underway. Johnny Howson just back to Hayden Hackney, back into the centre of defence, across here to Darragh Lenihan, who played for Tony Mowbray at Blackburn. He plays it into Hackney to Lenihan again on this left-hand side, and out wide to Giles, just in front of his manager Michael Carrick. And back again to Lenihan, and Lenihan inside the Middlesbrough half.
Oh, well, lads.
Their goalkeeper away on the right in his bright yellow at the Roker end. The ball being passed around at the back at the moment, played across to Tommy Smith, and then down the right wing. It's come back into Sunderland's possession for the first time in the game. Back to Patterson in green, headed on by Elise, looking for Stewart, and then whipped away on that far side by Dale Fry.
Did you see it was the Chinese New Year or something, Anne?
And back to Danny Bart here, and Bart back to Patterson at the edge of the
Jacob, do you know what this means?
I suspect Dale Fry and Hayden Hackney are two players that you know.
I know Dale Fry very well, coached him as a young lad when I was at the academy. Done really, really well, Dale Fry.
He has, a regular now in the Middlesbrough first team, as Dan Neal plays the ball back to Bart, across to Elise. Elise survives one challenge, gets it to Stewart, and then back into his own half, looking for Dan Neal, but one back by Middlesbrough. Back
hey,
here
Jacob,
to
do you know
Lenihan.
what
He's not trained all week, he's been injured, but in the side, ahead of Paddy McNair, and he plays it back short, does he? No, the goalkeeper beats Ross Stewart to the back pass, clears it onto the head of Danny Bart, who heads it forwards again into the Middlesbrough half, and it's Lenihan who heads it on the Republic of Ireland international, comes back over the halfway line into the Sunderland half, picked up here by Ballard, out to Roberts, inside to Ahmad on halfway, and Ahmad at the edge of the centre circle into the path of Dan Neal, who's managed to survive a push in the back, gets the ball eventually back to Evans. Evans swinging it out wide left, but it's cut out by Smith before it reaches Clark, and then picked up by Middlesbrough force, and eventually back to Anthony Patterson. So Patterson just pausing for a second, then rolling the ball to Danny Bart. Crooks goes to close him down, but it's played up now. A little back heel from Stewart, trying to get Clark through. He slips, Smith Fouls Clark, says the referee James Lindington. Quick free kick. Neil swinging it now across towards Roberts on the right. Roberts, of course, as we were saying, had a spell on loan at Middlesbrough. Quick throw from Roberts to Ahmad. Left for Hume. Back to Ballard. Ballard back to Patterson. 3 minutes into the game. A packed Stadium of Light. Live on BBC Radio Newcastle and SAFC.com. It's 0-0 in the early stages.
Yeah, I'll be
of the
happy
game.
with a point today, without a
Fairly
doubt.
frenetic start. And here's Hume on the right-hand side, playing it into the centre to Danny Bart. Bart now being chased by Crooks. Lays it off to Elise on the far side. Forwards to Jack Clark, just on halfway. He's cut inside. Now he's found the gap. Offside. Ross Stewart. The Middlesbrough defenders applaud the assistant, but nicely threaded ball through, but the timing of the run wasn't quite acute enough. And away come Middlesbrough again. Howson, the experienced Johnny Howson, former Leeds and Norwich midfielder, linchpin of the Middlesbrough midfield. Here he is again, gets the ball back on halfway, or just behind it, across to Lenihan, back across the midfield to Howson, and looking for a gap, little back heel, little flick by Crooks out to Smith on the right and back into Johnny Howson. Looking again to get it right through the centre then for Riley McGree, but it comes back into the Sunderland penalty area and Patterson clears up through the middle. Strong header by Fry for McGree, and the Australian now looks over his shoulder to who's in support, and there's nobody there at the moment. He tried to pass it back to Howson. Oh, then a foul on the far side.
Corey Evans is down.
Is it by Evans?
Is it Dan Neil? No, Evans.
I think it's Evans who's on the floor. It's a free kick to Middlesbrough. Evans hurt himself in the challenge. He's going to get treatment now. Pete Brand sprinting across the pitch, but challenge on the right-hand side, halfway between the touchline and the right of midfield.
He's still here, was all right, yeah.
And Evans is still on the deck, waiting to receive treatment. And now this is where Middlesbrough
are
a threat with these crosses into the box. So Sunderland really will they'll have to be alert when this free kick is finally taken. We're still getting treatment for Corey Evans at the moment on that far side. A reminder that we full commentary, of course, on Tuesday night on BBC Radio Newcastle. Southampton versus Newcastle United in the first leg of the semi-final of the League Cup. Total Sport will be live from St Mary's on Tuesday night.
Did Swansea win?
And we've got FA Cup action here on BBC Radio Newcastle next Saturday when we go to Fulham. We go to Craven Cottage and we'll see the new stand for the first time on the riverside of Craven Cottage. By all accounts, very impressive. Although we do like going to Craven Cottage, a bit of heritage there, isn't there?
There
Always
is
feels
indeed,
like a bit of football history when you sit in the old stand on Stevenage Road at Craven Cottage. Be a big test. It'll be interesting to see how many changes Fulham make next weekend. Evans is just getting to his feet, limping to the touchline.
Rotherham are picking up,
Ahmad
actually.
jogs back in to take up his position at the corner of the penalty area. Evans clearly feeling that as he bent over on the touchline. He's trying to just walk it off a moment, but a man down for this free kick at the moment, Sunderland, which is going to come in from the right-hand side. It's going to be, is it Howson's going to take it?
Yeah.
Howson with the free kick. Evans waiting to come back on now. And the referee ready. Evans still off. The ball swept in. Comes up off Dan Neil, out into midfield. Ahmad was trying to get it forwards, but it's come back for Ross Stewart to try and deal with, but picked up by Lenihan, who drives a shot straight at Anthony Patterson.
To the game
Body
at the
behind
moment.
the ball,
it's
falls down to his knees to make sure.
Derby. It's
0-0.
There's a lot at stake here.
Evans is back on, but he's still hobbling a little bit. We're 7 minutes into the game here at the Stadium of Light. Down the right wing, Hume gets above Giles, trying to get Roberts away down the wing, but it's out for a throw to Middlesbrough in their blue away strip. Next up for Middlesbrough in place of no game in the FA Cup next Saturday. They're at home to Watford.
It's all about man management skills, isn't it? I mean,
In
you
the
just don't know
Championship.
behind the dressing rooms.
Hume heads on, headed away by Lenihan, on again by Ballard. Lenihan gets a foot in and ahead of Ross Stewart.
Oh,
Bart
Stewart!
heads it clear
Whoever's
up onto
just
halfway to Dan
Ahmad's
Neal.
just
Looks for a
missed
free
an
kick momentarily, but
absolute
player's gone on and
sitter.
no free kick given by James Linnington.
Oh.
Ballard clears again and now
It was an
whistles
awful
both offside.
back pass from Middlesbrough.
Free kick to Sunderland.
Well, it was the
Ballard
keeper that
will
screwed
take
it up,
this.
basically.
Pushes it into the centre to
That should be 1-0.
Danny
I don't know
Bart,
how
just outside
Ahmad
the
has missed that.
Sunderland penalty area. Dan Neal out to Elise, down the line to Jack Clark, back to Elise. He sweeps it up over the head of Ross Stewart. Did he have any contact? It's come back here for Howson to push back to the goalkeeper, who puts his right foot on it, the Loney, and he's not cleared it properly. And Ahmad put it wide. What an opportunity. Ahmad will feel he should have scored.
He should have scored.
Zach Steffen didn't clear it properly, straight to Ahmad.
He's got to score, Nick.
And he was in a position, 12 yards, and he swept it wide of the right post.
And it's on his favourite left foot.
Yeah.
He's got to put that away. He's got to at least hit the target. He's not even hit the target.
He should have buried that in the corner. And, Borough are lucky. They've been let off there. Ahmad knows, I think he should have buried that. What an opportunity. Early in the game.
How do you think he missed that? Do you think he was
Now,
just caught by
ball
surprise?
out for a
Ahmad, he
throw
wasn't expecting that.
On this right-hand side for Sunderland. Hume will take it on halfway. Drops to Ahmad. Shuffled off it, though, by Crooks. Left for Hackney. He leaves it again for Akpom, and now Akpom out. Is he going to get it to the left to Giles? And it's cut out by Roberts for a throw to Middlesbrough, 15 yards down from Tony Mowbray. But what an opportunity Sunderland spurned.
I think he's struggling, Evans.
Yeah, he's down again. It'll be Barr, presumably.
Barr or Mishu.
Yeah, one of those two.
I think it'd bring Mishu on, myself.
I think you're right. I think it is going to be Mishu. Is he already getting himself ready?
And Dan Neal playing the Evans role.
Yeah.
He's going to be a miss for Corey Evans.
Yeah, that experience, he knows, is just...
Fuck's sake.
Just tidy, isn't he? Just reads the
well,
game.
With Corey Evans,
Evans has gone off.
He's not one of them who jumps out here. He's not one of them who's going to spray balls 30, 40 yards. He just does the job. He tidies up. He's the one who go through, steady things down.
The irony, of course, is we spoke to Corey Evans after the game last weekend, and he was saying how good he feels after the sort of rest he's had over those 3 games. And now, unfortunately, he's picked up an injury. I don't know whether you'd argue it's self-inflicted. It was in a clash with a Middlesbrough player, which led to a free kick to Middlesbrough, and Evans hurt himself in that incident. But he's replaced by Mishu. And Evans heads off down the tunnel. Mishu on now. Throw for Middlesbrough 0-0.
I think
in the
11th
scoring
minute. Bloody goals. I mean,
Giles, Ryan Giles on loan from Wolves. He was at Blackburn with Tony Mowbray in the
offside.
The second half of last season. Ball.
This could be the game where Mishu comes to the forefront, really. We know that he's got great ability. It's going to take time for him to find his feet.
Yeah,
he's had 3 or 4 games now.
Speculation that as Bart nearly caught by Akpom at the edge of the area, but Patterson's got the ball clear. Now a foul on Stewart by Fry in the centre circle, and speculation that Mishu being watched by the likes of Newcastle, keeping an eye on his situation. He's on loan, of course, from Paris Saint-Germain. Here is Mishu.
Thank you.
Just at the left edge of the centre circle, short pass inside to Dan Neal, and out to the right to Trey Hume. Hume back inside to Neal, and now Mishu again in the middle, and Mishu to Elise. Elise back to Mishu, back behind him to Danny Bart, and Bart will drive this down the right wing, looking for Roberts. This could be a good ball. Roberts trying to flick it in, and then Giles puts it out for a throw.
Happy with that.
Yard or two from the corner flag on the right-hand side. I think his options were limited then, so he did well to keep that in the first place and then win a throw for Sunderland here down in the corner. Hume will take this.
Ant, who did you
short
say
to
we've
Roberts.
got
Roberts,
next
it bobbles up awkwardly. It comes to Hume. Ahmad back out to Hume. Back again to Ballard. And Ballard forwards to Michoud. And Michoud back onto the halfway line to Dan Ballard, who plays it, rolls it back to Patterson. Closed down by Crooks, gets the ball clear to halfway. Roberts and the flag up. Offside. Free kick to Middlesbrough again. In the 14th minute, Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 0. Lenihan with this free kick on the left-hand side. Just a few feet from his manager, Michael Carrick. 41 years old now, the former England midfielder.
First yellow card of the match going to Middlesbrough.
Stefan, the goalkeeper. Short pass. Fry out to Howson, back to Dale Fry. And Fry on the far side, looking for the run on the wing.
I'm liking the look of this referee.
It's headed away from McGree. And back it comes here, possibly for Ahmad. In the penalty area again on the left-hand side, a little bit wide. And then stabbed away by Fry on his shoulder. Nearly opened up for Ahmad. Perhaps he should have taken an opportunity earlier. But Elise now to Clark on the touchline. Clark trying to come back inside. Oh, he's hacked down. Clear foul by Howson and a yellow card for Johnny Howson, right in front of the referee.
Good movement again by Ahmed. You know, he's causing problems there. He's tried to check back, but again, good defending.
Sunderland are doing well so far. 15 minutes gone.
Great little break. Howson needs treatment now. I think it's Howson.
Yeah.
Just flat on his back. But a free kick for Sunderland then, left-hand side of midfield. 25, 30 yards out. 25, I don't know. It's a fair way out. Dan Neil just getting some instructions from Tony Mowbray.
Duncan Watmore.
There's Duncan Watmore warming up down below us. Largely used as a substitute these days. 28 years old now, Duncan Watmore. Treatment still for Howson, who's getting to his feet.
46 now watching, thank you for tuning in.
And he's up now and just show the indignity of the yellow card as he gets to his feet and as he walks off to the touchline.
Sunderland definitely getting the better of the chances.
And
there should be
Roberts and Clark over the ball for the free kick.
Just click that thumbs up, please, and the subscribe.
Quarter of an hour played.
Much
0-0 at the Stadium of Light. In what's so far been an entertaining game. And Sunderland probably should be one up.
Good cross, that's what you need.
It's Roberts who
Great
crosses,
ball.
headed down at the back of the area, and a drive from Ahmad. It's caught in the air by Stefan. Awkward one, but the keeper had no problem really with it. It just sort of danced across his 6-yard box and plucked it out of the air. 0-0 still. Howson driving it up past Elise, but back to Bart. And Bart will tidy up at the back, away from McGree, back to Patterson. McGree, of course, who scored the only goal of the game at the Riverside earlier in the season. Back it comes to Lenihan. Back again to the goalkeeper, under pressure from Ahmad, but he gets the ball clear. Only as far as Clark on the left, who heads it on. Howson heads it back towards halfway, and it's picked up by Akpom. He's looking for options, swings over the outside of his foot to Giles on the left wing, just in the Sunderland half. Back again to Lenihan in the Middlesbrough half, into Howson in the centre circle. Back behind him, Dale Fry. And Fry pauses with it, then plays it short to Lenihan. And then again, short pass in to Hackney. One back by Sunderland. Hackney just goes all over it. It's going to be a free kick. No, he's played the advantage, the referee, because the ball has fallen to Ahmad, blocked by Lenihan. And the advantage lost because Giles is coming away with it here. Plays it inside now to McGree. And McGree out wide, left to Giles again. Swings across in here, away past Marcus Force. And out for a throw on the far side to Sunderland.
Yeah, you just seen the threat from Middlesbrough there. When they do win the ball, the counter-attack, the break with pace. So that's something which we've got to make sure we're wary of.
Yeah. Elise then with a throw for Sunderland, yard or two up from the corner on the left wing, 0-0. 18 minutes nearly played, and down the line goes Elise, straight though to Howson. Howson cutting into the middle, playing it back behind him to Hackney, out wide then on the far side, played inside to the edge of the penalty area, but cleared, hooked away by Michoud up to the halfway line, where Lenihan on the centre spot plays it square and nearly caught Fry by Ross Stewart, but back to Lenihan, calling for it forwards on that right hand side, but it's come back to Fry, short to Hackney, back to Fry, Lenihan, and then into the centre circle again to Hackney.
They've got to push in
and
now.
the ball cut out by Roberts as Middlesbrough tried to pick out a move down the left wing. It's come out to Ahmad and then out wide to Dan Neil. Neil back to Ahmad, short here to the right to Hume. Hume into the middle to Michoud, back to Ballard, and then back to Bart. Michoud in the centre circle, and it's cut out again, McGree, but then won back by Dan Neil. Neil forwards to a foul here on Michoud, just inside the Middlesbrough half on the right hand side.
How the fuck was that a foul? How was that a foul? He never touched him.
Michoud actually. Back to Neil, back again to Bart in the centre circle, across to Ballard. Ballard on the halfway line, out wide now to Roberts. It bobbles up a little bit awkwardly, gets it to Ahmad, who gets it inside to Hume. Looking for Clark here on the left-hand side. Stewart in the penalty area. He's come in the penalty area with Clark, but he's lost it. Smith is pushed over by Clark. It's no corner, it would have been, but it was a push by Clark on the right back, and it's a free kick to Middlesbrough.
Bad touch by Clark, his first touch, let him down.
Bye.
Great play by Ahmad again. He looks bright.
Apart from when he missed that golden opportunity. So 0-0. Zach Steffen, the American international, will take
we got the last laugh on them, though, didn't we?
Free kick. Up it goes onto the head of Akpom, and forwards it rolls to Patterson at the edge of his penalty area.
You see, when we play Stoke, I've been standing and applauding Alex. I won't give him grief. I mean, I've still done a nice dirty
Giles,
but
a few yards down from
what he did for
Tony
us.
Mowbray. Hume will take the throw. Back it goes to Ballard. Sunderland in the red and white stripes, of course. Middlesbrough all in blue.
But I think the Sunderland fans have got to be grateful.
Patterson,
you've got to be grateful for what he did. He got us promoted.
Kicks up through the centre onto halfway. Stewart beaten in the air by Fry. Akpom on his chest, trying to wrestle it away from Michoud. Akpom plays it back onto the halfway line to Fry.
And he got us a win.
He
got us a win outside of in Wembley
for
the first time since 73.
All in yellow at the edge of his penalty
doing
area.
Round of applause now for
out to
that
the
rugby player. I think
left wing here. Giles tapping it back inside to McGree. Back out with a nod of the head to Giles, trying to get away from Hume. Comes off Hume, will go back to Patterson, who gathers it safely at the right side of his 6-yard box.
Excellent. Good defending that try, Hume. I've got to say, since he's come into the team, he's done really well.
He has, and he's been useful in terms of assists. Now, 21 minutes. It's applause for Fletcher Jackson. His picture on the big screen above the Roker end, and Fletcher, whose funeral it is later this week, being applauded around the Stadium of Light. Another tragic loss, another young Sunderland fan leaving us. And respect from the stadium, respect from all the fans, Middlesbrough fans included, as play underway from this throw on the right here, and McGree wins it back, loses it here after a challenge from Dan Neil, and it's finally just stabbed onto Akpom, who gets a good shove in the back from Ballard, and a free kick to Middlesbrough just in front of Tony Mowbray. Giles coming forwards to take the free kick, taps it back to Darragh Lenihan.
Is it true Tony Mowbray is the actual Middlesbrough fan?
A year or so ago. And he plays it back now to Fry. Back to the goalkeeper. Stewart gives chase.
But he's actually a Middlesbrough fan, though, isn't he?
To the halfway line and over. Looking for force. Headed away by Elise. Elise, another chance to get it to an offside.
Oh, offside.
Stewart. And a free kick to Middlesbrough. Play 23 minutes.
Get in! 1-0, it's offside,
nil,
it's offside. Oh, no. Very, very
nil.
late
Total
decision.
Sport returns,
Late decision by the linesman.
Every night.
Very late decision.
Live from St Mary's on Tuesday night. Here's the ball back to Stefan at the edge of the penalty area. Kicks this through the middle, looking for Crooks. And he had Ballard on his shoulder. It's dropped for Michu in the centre circle. Ahmad lets it run to Roberts. Roberts here on the right-hand side. Ahmad trying to get into the box now. Into the penalty area. Ahmad on the right-hand side squares this. A chance! Oh, Roberts!
Offside.
The initial save made from Roberts by Stefan. Stewart followed up, but he was offside.
You've got to go to VAR.
It must, surely go to VAR.
Great play again by Ahmed and Roberts.
The understanding between Ahmad and Roberts was key there. But the goal ruled out.
What's the situation on Stewart then? Is he yet the
was
sign?
An opportunity really for Ahmad to have a go himself, but it would have been on his right foot.
Yeah, he pulled it back for Roberts.
Roberts was well placed. He put it too central, didn't he? On either side of the keeper, he might have had better luck. But the goal chalked off. It's still 0-0. Here's Smith putting it up for McGree to chase. Elise gets back in front of him, turns it away. Jack Clark trying to head it on, but it's out for a throw to Middlesbrough on the far side. Michael Carrick's record
not like
in
Basildon Bond,
league since he took over, 1-8, drawn 1, or I say league and 1 cup game and lost 3.
That's a foul.
Foul on Michu.
Well on Michu.
By Smith. Just back inside the Sunderland half. Elise back here to Danny Bart. Bart back to Patterson. Managed to clear the lunge, if you like, of Crooks. Drops here for Roberts in front of Michael Carrick. Kept it in, but gifted it to Giles. He's given it away to Ballard, and that's given away to McGree. Akpom under a challenge from Neil gets away, and Akpom taking this forwards now through the centre for Middlesbrough. He's going to release a shot. Scrambling across to gather it is Patterson. Had it covered though, and quite a weak shot in the end from Tuber Akpom. And out quickly to Ahmad on this right wing, over the halfway line, and then just poked out to Michael Carrick by Riley McGree, and the throw taken by Roberts back to Hume, and back inside to Ballard. Out to Hume on the right hand side. Hume inside to Dan Neil. Neil into the middle to Michu, and Michu across to Elise, just short of halfway.
Are you watching the Man City
and
game,
Michu again, just to the left of the centre circle, just looking for options. Short pass inside to Neil, forwards to Hume in the centre circle, and Hume finds Stewart, back to Neil, Michu, and now Michu to Ahmad. Behind him is Neil, trying to get it through to Stewart, cut out by Lenihan. Drops for Tommy Smith, and Tommy Smith through to Howson, and out on the left. It's intercepted by Elise. Clark beaten to the ball by Smith, and a throw to Sunderland on the left at the foot of the East Stand. Nearly 27 minutes played. Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 0.
Billboard on the side saying Jacob, who's
Michael
the
Carrick
manager,
will know all about Ahmad, won't he?
Yes.
You know what he will. He is.
He will have undoubtedly have coached him at Old Trafford.
Of course.
Here's Bart to Michu, back again. Ballard.
So this is Michael Jackson, but his legacy lives on.
Ahmad on this right side, forwards up to halfway. Hume out to Roberts, through to Michu, back to Roberts on this right hand side. Roberts trying to find Ahmad. Ahmad down the right side of the penalty area, just wheeling away towards the corner. A little back heel to Roberts, the cheek of it, and Roberts taking this on through to Michoud. Michoud now in the middle. Dan Neil looking to try and get it through to Roberts, who's got his back to goal, leaves it for Neil. Neil on the right side of the penalty area, out to Ahmad. Ahmad now trying to find a way through into Neil again. Neil trying to tee up Stewart, but is hooked away by Crooks.
I tell you what,
teasingly, tantalisingly trying to find a way into the Middlesbrough penalty area, but in the end Borough get it clear. Back up to Patterson at the other end, and Patterson wide on the left. Elise inside now to Stewart.
You can hit that
Stewart
subscribe button.
Back to Michoud.
58
he swept it up to an offside. Surely Ahmad and the flag up.
Anybody who's new into the channel,
Ahmad
click the subscribe button.
Lucky again. Ball rolled out for Lenihan to take the free kick. Approaching half an hour, and an enjoyable half an hour it's been. A couple of stoppages, of course, injuries to Evans, who had to be replaced by Michoud, and Howson.
Yeah, and we've been here before, Nick, and what we say is when Sunderland are on top,
you've got to take the opportunity.
You've got to take the opportunity. You have to. You know, Middlesbrough will have their moment.
My wife says to me this morning, "I'm leaving you," and I says, "Why? Is it because I act like is it because I act like I know everything?" She went, "Yes." I says, "I knew it."
Millwall. Before that, they'd won handsomely 3-1 at Birmingham. They won at Blackburn 2-1. Beat Wigan 4-1. Though Wigan at the moment seem to be the whipping boys for everybody in the Championship. Losing again yesterday. Throw to Howson, inside to Hackney. He tries to get forward, but show a little bit too much of it to Danny Bart. It's driven back up into the Middlesbrough half and back to the goalkeeper. And takes it at the edge of the area and just passes it short to Lenihan. And foot on the ball then to Howson, or Hackney, back to
certainly we're getting caught offside a lot, Sunderland.
To Hackney again, back to Fry out there on the right, and Fry again, pausing, forwards to Hackney and out wide. He tried to get it, intercepted by Clark, and just swept past Stewart, couldn't get a touch to it, and back it comes to the goalkeeper, Zach Steffen, and he drives us up through the middle, straight to Hume, but it's gone straight to Hackney, and now Akpom in the centre circle. A great tackle by Dan Neil to win it back from Michoud, and back to Neil, lifts it over the top for an offside Ahmad. He was miles offside.
He's got to look along the line.
He's got to look. He just wasn't looking then, Ahmad. He's a bit lazy. And
well, if they're watching that miss that Ahmad Diallo did, then we'll have him on loan for another year.
In the centre circle, turning and looking to get it through to McGree, back onto halfway. Hackney, Hayden Hackney, out wide now to Smith, and back inside to Hackney, and Hackney into Howson on the right of midfield. Howson will look for McGree, back to Hackney and McGree again, rolling it out on the right, looking for Smith, but Elise puts it out for a throw to Middlesbrough. 0-0. Hackney with a quick throw to McGree. McGree back to Hackney. McGree again, back to Hayden Hackney, and then it's swept into the centre circle where Lenihan forwards to Akpom. On his shoulder is Hume, a little push.
Doors just getting shut on Ahmad Diallo.
Akpom still has it, and Akpom now short pass to his right to Hackney, who gets it back again from McGree. Forwards again to Crooks, a block, and come back to Crooks, and behind him is Howson. Again to Hackney, through to McGree, looking down the right of the penalty area to Force, who's driven it into the penalty area, but behind Akpom. And it'll be brought out now and played up by Roberts. And Ahmad could be away here on the left-hand side. Lenihan goes to close him down. Ahmad now taking on Lenihan, but it's a block by Lenihan.
Good tackle.
He's got the ball away, and it's played out here on the left-hand side to Giles.
Dad's been in to pick
Giles over the halfway line into the Sunderland half. Pass behind him to Lenihan.
How did he do that there?
And Lenihan
offside,
swinging it up through. Elise heads it away.
My wife's just walked in the house, so don't swear, please.
Free kick quickly taken. Played to Michoud. Now Neil back to Ballard and out to Hume on this right-hand side. Back inside to Michoud and Neil. And here's Michoud, just yards away from him. Into Ahmad in the centre circle. Elise back behind him and out to Clark on the left
Tell
wing.
what, both teams are
Middlesbrough
defending
half now.
very well. They're
Clark
cancelling each other out well. Like
Smith on that far side, but he's lost it. Smith gets it forwards now, inside to Hackney. Hackney across to McGree, just behind the centre circle, runs into trouble, but he managed to get away from Hume, gets the ball back eventually to
corner
Fry,
ball, come on.
to Lenihan, and Lenihan bringing it into the centre circle to Howson. Hackney to his right, forwards again to McGree, out wide on the wing is Force. Elise's gone with him at the moment, but a couple of step overs from the Finn, he's still got it and then loses it. Good challenge by Elise, out in midfield to Michoud and then back on this left hand side to Clark, who's brought it inside and rolls it across to Roberts here on the right. Roberts into the Middlesbrough half, he's got Ahmad just ahead of him. Roberts down the right hand side, Roberts to the corner of the penalty area, inside to Ahmad. Ahmad back to Roberts in the box, Roberts trying to get through, but Howson sweeps it off his feet, and it's the first corner of the game in the 34th minute to Sunderland on the right hand side. Roberts will take this.
Do you know what the wife's just
drawing breath, crouched on the far side?
Do you know what the wife's just brought from Tesco's? No, I've got them for tonight.
Lining up
the
behind
Prince
the
Harry
penalty
book,
spot.
spare.
Clark saunters into the 6-yard box, up onto the goalkeeper, and it'll be Roberts then from this right hand side with the game's first corner. Driven in with his left, hangs in the air for a moment, and Bart, no, he looked to head it back, but a free kick for a foul push on Crooks, I think.
Oh, best chance of the match so far for Middlesbrough. Forced a good save from Patterson.
The 35th minute now, Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 0, live on BBC Radio Newcastle. Well, Sunderland have had the better chances.
Good save from Patterson there.
Indeed.
Golden one early on and a goal disallowed.
It's all right.
Fingertips pushed around corner for Middlesbrough.
The kick from Stefan swings out towards the left. Ballard heads it onto the halfway line, and it's Hackney trying to get it through here now to Crooks, and Crooks along the edge of the back of the penalty area finds Force, and Forks.
Great save
By Patterson.
Great
down to his right to tip it around for a corner.
Fantastic save that by Pato.
In fact, that really the first opportunity, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So 0-0.
It's been playing most of the morning.
This is where you've got to concentrate, especially from these set pieces.
Yeah. This corner from Middlesbrough's left. It's going to be taken by Johnny Howson. And Pom on the 6-yard line. Force is in near the left of the 6-yard box. Everyone else lining up around the penalty spot. Howson floats this in, headed across the penalty area and away by Stewart for another corner. This time from the right hand side. And Giles is going to take this one, the left footer.
Cheers for the subscriber there, Craig. Thanks, mate.
That, maybe a little bit of a couple of minutes maybe of added time. Giles
Graham Lindsay, hello, welcome, mate. How are you doing?
Position to take the corner from the right for
Command your box.
Middlesbrough at the
it's
north end of the stadium, away to our
36
left.
minutes gone.
And here is Giles, drives it in low. It's blocked here by Hume, who's on the left, and he brings this out. And now looking to get the ball away up for Ahmad on the left, but ahead of him and out for a throw to Middlesbrough, which has gone back to the goalkeeper. So they've seen the danger off from those two set pieces, Sunderland. Still 0-0. Here's Stefan again, 27-year-old, at the edge of his penalty area, away to our right, and he drives this up over the halfway line. Elise heads it back, and it's just kept in on the far side. Smith hooking it forwards, and Crooks taking it out eventually for a throw to Sunderland on the left. 8 minutes of the
Graham
45
from Holty here,
left.
how are you doing, mate?
0-0. Slight sort of dip in the game these last couple of minutes now.
Good old Holt
early energy is sort of evaporated, but header on by Lenihan, picked up by Ballard, and then looking to get it to Stewart, who got a push in the back. And a free kick, just back inside the Sunderland half. Elise will take this. His hand on the ball a moment. And Michu a few yards away, Bart behind.
What's your thoughts of the game so far then, lads?
Back to Patterson. Patterson now out to Ballard on this right-hand side, and out again. Forwards, in fact, in the end, down the right to Ahmad. Ahmad has got Roberts wide. Roberts now. Giles in front of him. Roberts on his right. Crosses. Stewart! From 6 yards over the bar on the shoulder of Dale Fry. It was a chance.
Another chance, Nick. Good ball. Good play by Roberts. He's played that ball in early, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Stewart just couldn't keep it down.
As I say, he had a defender on his shoulder, but nonetheless, it was an opportunity again.
But I think what Tony Mowbray will be most pleased about is the amount of space and the movement by Ahmed. He's causing him problems. He's just getting in them little pockets and able to pick the ball up. Very difficult to pick up.
Stefan then with the goal kick. Ballard heads it on.
Graham, yeah, absolutely remember, mate. How are you doing, fella?
Back to the goalkeeper. Stewart gives chase.
We went Stoke game.
Clears up over the halfway line. Elise heads it into the centre circle.
Sunderland beat Huddersfield 3-2 and Oxford.
Neil
and Oldham 1-0.
Swings it up.
How are you doing, fella?
Halfway across here
good to see you in the
Hume.
chat.
Roberts out wide. Roberts just inside the Middlesbrough half, trying to get down the line. Chased by McGree. Gets away from the first challenge into the middle now. Rolling it into the penalty area to Stewart. Stewart on this right-hand side. Just taps it to Hume again, and Hume has Roberts in support just behind him. Roberts is tackled by Hackney with that a corner. Yep, just poked behind by Hayden Hackney.
Great movement again by Ahmed. You know, he's coming into them little holes, them little pockets, picking the ball up, and he's causing Middlesbrough problems.
Can they cause Middlesbrough another problem from this second corner? Again from the right-hand side for Sunderland. Again, it'll be Roberts to take it. Clark on the goalkeeper. The others lined up on the penalty spot. Left-footed, driven in and headed over by Hume from the right of the 6-yard box. A goal kick to Middlesbrough. 5 minutes of the 45 left.
Just tried to see if you're on Facebook, Graham, but I can't seem to find you.
Added time, 0-0.
Good to see you though, man.
It's been a good first half for Sunderland.
And I think, you know, out of the two managers...
Are you happy, Graham, with how we've been so far in the Championship? How we're doing? Are you guys happy with how we've been this half?
Just landed on one of the speakers now, look. There was a peregrine falcon. It nests in the stadium. It's just flown out from its nest, which I think is down to the right, and is sitting on one of the soundboards hanging off the roof. And goal kick.
Give us a subscribe, Graham. Give us a sub. I'll sub you back, fella.
Elise out to Clark, looking to get it to Stewart. Stewart now down the left-hand side for Elise to chase.
Give us a subscribe,
leaves it at the back heel to Clark.
I'll, sub you
Clark
back,
coming inside.
Graham.
Clark now at the corner of the penalty area, taking on Smith. He's held back by him at the moment. Still has it. Finally tackled, and then a foot from Clark in the clearance, and Smith takes it back to the goalkeeper. 0-0 still.
Yeah, we do need a winner too,
referee's
absolutely.
Jogging back because the player, I think it might be Force, has just crouched at the edge of the area, just got a slight knock.
And I think one thing which Tony Moore will be looking at, you know, when the ball goes to Clark, you know, he's had plenty of the ball. It's his end product. Where you see on the right-hand side, Roberts gets it, and okay, he's got that combination with Ahmed and it works, but from the left-hand side, you just think you just need that little bit more from Clark. There's no end product.
So
referee's doing well. He's letting the game flow though.
Stefan.
He's letting the game flow well.
To get the ball back in play. He kicks it up over the halfway line.
Cheers, Graham, mate. Thanks, fella.
By Crooks, headed away by Ballard, hooked on again by Neil. Comes forwards to McGree though from the centre circle, and Ballard has to get it away from McGree here if he can, and he's holding him off at the moment, but then goes down.
Do you still go at many of the games,
foul.
Graham?
And
do you not get so many?
Middlesbrough come again down this right-hand side into McGree in the penalty area, pulls it back for Crooks, blocked though on the edge of the 6-yard box by Hume, and it's a corner to Middlesbrough. So this again from the right, but Howson's going to take this one.
Just went to concentrate just right on the half time here.
Yeah. So Howson with Middlesbrough's third corner. From the right. They all look to break from the penalty spot again. It's whipped in by Howson. Dropped almost for Crooks.
Yeah, hard to get to any now, mate.
For
kids at home.
The assistant
Weekends
didn't
off.
want to make a decision, but finally does. They've given another corner.
To be fair, you still feel it. You still support the team. It doesn't matter whether you're at the game or not. You're still in misery.
And another corner from the right-hand side.
Linesman, referee.
So, again, from the right then, this corner kick from Howson. Hangs in the air, headed away by Elise. It comes to Giles. He whips it back into the penalty area. Patterson, he's claimed it, but he spilled it first time, but he grabbed it at the second attempt, protected by Ross Stewart just in front of him. So 0-0 still, just a minute or two till the 45 is up. And Patterson...
No, they haven't. It'll be a second half syndrome, won't it? The only positive thing is we haven't scored first half, because that usually means we get the piss ripped out of us next second half.
Back again to Ahmad on the touchline. It's whipped out by Crooks. Throw to Sunderland. Yards down from Michael Carrick. Hume with it to Ahmad. Just came off him a little bit clumsily, and eventually off Hume for another throw to Middlesbrough on this left-hand side.
Yeah, good chatting to you, Graham Lindsay, mate. Thanks for popping in.
45.
Good to see you, fella.
Leatherhand forwards.
Hope you're doing well wherever you are.
Down by Neil McGree, but Mishu got a touch to it. It comes back to Danny Bart and back to Patterson. And the fourth official, Darren Bond, strolls out towards the touchline.
Poor kick.
Hackney heads it on from the halfway line to Akpom. Akpom still has it despite a challenge by Neil. Akpom, Giles on his left, but he's rolled it in and it's put behind by Ballard for another corner to Middlesbrough.
It's little things like that puts you under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, Patterson's taking it back onto his left foot, which is his weak side, and then it's a poor kick. It ends up in a corner.
4 minutes of added time. And the corner on the left here. Giles will take this fifth Middlesbrough corner now. So Sunderland bringing unnecessary pressure on themselves in added time. Been here before. Giles with the corner kick, headed out by Ahmad, only as far as Howson. Was that a missed kick? I think it was, but it's dropped for McGree on the right of the penalty area. Elise is trying to force him out to the touchline. He's sticking with him, but McGree's come round him and now onto his left foot, inside to Howson, back out on the far side, and back to Hackney on the right of midfield. Into the penalty area. Ballard stabs it clear. Out to Ahmad, and now into the path of Neil. Neil trying to put it back into Ahmad's path, and Stewart's to his right. Ahmad still taking this on. Ahmad still going, then out to Stewart on the right. First time ball into the legs of the defender, and cleared by Smith. It was Johnny Howson who got back in front of the keeper, and the ball dropped into his feet, and they managed to get it clear. Cleared again by Smith onto the head of Danny Bart. Elise heads it on. It drops to Hackney, nods it down to Howson, who hooks it away down the right wing, headed down by Bart. It'll go out for a throw to Middlesbrough. On the right, third of the way inside the Sunderland half.
Newcastle couldn't hit a barn door yesterday, I mind.
Nearly 2 minutes of the 4 played. Goalless still as we head into half-time. It's down the right wing, hooked up in the air by Clark, comes into the centre, and foot to it from Hume in the air again, headed away by Danny Bart. Strong challenge from Fry, trying to head it away from Stewart. Bart clears, 2 minutes left, and into the Middlesbrough half, the ball bounces, and back comes Hackney, I think, for it. Puts his foot on the ball, then plays it back to the goalkeeper. And Stefan in the D plays it out away to the right-hand side. force beaten in the air by Elise. It's a throw to Middlesbrough on halfway on the right-hand side, 1.5 minutes left. And Smith with the throw into Hackney on halfway, back to Tommy Smith, and back again to Stefan. Stefan drives this up over the halfway line. Crooks comes off Hume on his shoulder, trying to head it forwards, but back for Ballard to deal with. And then out to Hume again on this right-hand side. Hume, Giles behind him, plays it back to Patterson, drives it up through the middle. Stewart in the centre circle, into the last minute here. And Bart bringing this up to Elise now. Elise out to Clark on the far side, just inside the Middlesbrough half. Force in front of him, he cuts inside into, well, trying to get into the centre circle. He's tripped by Hackney, I think it is.
Yeah, he's taken a little bit of a knock. Winded, is he?
Yeah. He's just on his knees, helped up Jack Clark now.
That's it, half-time. Good standing ovation and applause from the Stadium of Light.
Centre circle in the Middlesbrough half. Mishu's going to take it and taps it back behind him in the centre circle to Dan Neal and Danny Bart. And Bart will play it back to Patterson, 10 seconds left. Patterson drives the ball up through the middle, looking for Stewart. Oh, he lets it drop over the defender's shoulder. Stewart, an opportunity! And a save by Stefan. Just pouring it away to the left. And now Giles hooking it away. And that will be half-time. Another opportunity right on the break for Sunderland.
It wouldn't come down for him.
It just wouldn't drop for him. But what inspiration from Stewart to let it drop over the defender's shoulder. And the two sides go at the break 0-0. But Sunderland have had a couple of very good chances in the first half. They could be 1 or 2-0 up, but they're not, and that could come back perhaps possibly to bite them on the backside.
Yeah, you look at that first 45 minutes, you've got to say Sunderland have done very, very well. Ahmed's caused them problems, you know, and we talk about key players, and we spoke about the likes of Roberts. You know, if they're on the game, Ahmed's on the game, they will cause them problems. You know, when you talk about quality player to player, we've got a better quality. You know, it's a case of showing it, and at times we have shown it. And you know, you look at Middlesbrough, and they've found it difficult at times because Ahmed's dropping into that little pocket, picking the ball up, combining with Roberts, causing problems. And you've got to say, we should be going in at least one or even two goals up, and that
I think it's been
is what's going to annoy
from the lads.
Tony Mulvey, because we talk about being
put our chances away, but it shit happens, doesn't it?
Clinical when they got those opportunities.
0-0. I just hope
after 10 minutes when Evans was injured.
Have not found their
Ahmad, after 9 minutes, 12 yards
out. Found the game, find their second half, and
swept it wide of the right hand
skin us alive.
Should have, at the very least, hit the target.
You've got to hit the target.
Stewart 6 yards out, one over the bar, and then that Stewart opportunity, which drew a save at the death, if you like, of the first half from Stefan.
How would you say it? Michael Carrick has done his homework. The fact, like, how many times Sunderland have been poor in the second half against the likes of Burnley, against the likes of West Brom,
in this
things like that, and he was saying they go
minutes.
for the jugular, go for the kill in
the second half to come on BBC Radio Newcastle and SAFC.com. At the break, Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 0.
Total Sport.
Newcastle United have reached a semi-final.
They're just 2 matches away from a first cup final for 24 years.
When we played big boy tempo teams,
Southampton, number 2.
Second half.
Newcastle.
The first leg of the League Cup semi-final will be played at St Mary's. Matthew Racebeck and John Anderson will have all the build-up and the whole game live. Tuesday night from 6. Great sport kicks off here.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
I don't think you've seen the... you have not seen the
Stadium of Light
the Middlesbrough for full
Sunderland
potential.
0, Middlesbrough 0. We will be back with Nick Barnes and Gary Bennett for full commentary of the second half. And Dom and I in the office were making predictions beforehand. My 4-2 is not looking particularly likely at the moment, but you never know. The only other game across the country that started at midday today was in the Women's Championship. Durham at home to Southampton, having won the derby, having lost the derby, of course, against Sunderland last weekend. Goalless in that one at half-time as well.
We'll read some
Newcastle,
half-time
passing a pitch
comments from
inspection
social
morning,
media.
but Durham Southampton is goalless. Sunderland away to Birmingham in the same division at 2 o'clock. Also passing a pitch inspection this morning was the WSL game between Chelsea and Liverpool at Kingsmeadow. Kicked off at 12:30 and was then abandoned after 9 minutes because the pitch was frozen after all. So that did not last.
I'm going to regret these missed chances.
There might be a few frantic colleagues as well, because that game was live on BBC Two, so they've now got quite a long time to quite a big hole in the schedule to fill. But yeah, Chelsea-Liverpool, the first of quite a few games in the WSL this afternoon, abandoned after 9 minutes because of a frozen pitch. In the Premier League today, back to the men's game then, Leeds United against Brentford.
Hopefully they'll bring a week and sign.
At 2 o'clock, Brentford could go back into European spots with a win. They
Another
could
one
win
saying
4
playing
games
well,
in a
get
row in
Clark
top
off
flight,
though.
Brentford as
Not
well,
sure
for the
what's
first
up
time
with
since
him.
the 1930s.
Every time he runs, he's losing
and
the
the gap
ball.
between the top two in the division could be down to 2 points today, or it could be as wide as 8. Second place Manchester City are at home to Wolves at 2 o'clock this afternoon. They need to win, then hope that Manchester United win at leaders Arsenal at 4:30. That scenario is what would make it 2 points of a gap. But the City manager Pep Guardiola says they cannot be relying on other teams to do them favours.
We have to change ourselves, and after Arsenal continue in the way for a long time, no more than pleasure to congratulate them. So it's not about 3 points, 4 points. Sooner or later we're going to fall down.
Yes, he says that. He would still like the gap to be only 2 points at the end of today, though both of those games live on BBC Radio 5 Live. Yesterday, Newcastle United drew 0-0 against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. That is now 6 consecutive clean sheets in the Premier League. Yesterday, also the 15th top-flight game, unbeaten in a row for Newcastle. That is a new club record. Here is their head coach Eddie Howe speaking to the BBC's Rob Nothman.
That was a tough and tense game, not a lot in it. You've got a new club record, which must please you no end. 15 matches unbeaten.
Yeah, very proud of that statistic. I think it's very tough to go that length of time unbeaten in the Premier League with the quality of the teams that we've played. So real credit to the players for how consistent they've been.
Should you have created a little bit more for your liking today?
Yeah, I think with the ball that we had in dangerous areas, yes. We're disappointed not to have won the game. I don't think we really created huge chances. I think we had a lot of half chances. But with where we got the ball, we're disappointed, whether it be with the final ball or the fact we didn't have enough bodies in the box. So certainly stuff to work on. But again, the effort of the players was incredible.
Just going for a slash, we'll be back in a second.
And our general control of the game, I thought was very high.
I have to ask you about the goalkeeper, Nick Pope. For 70 minutes, he barely touched the ball and then produced a save of great quality. It takes something for a goalkeeper not to have much to do and to be, right on the ball as he was then.
Yeah, I think that's a hallmark of a very good goalkeeper. When you're not busy, you've got to keep your concentration, and that was a huge moment. In general, the last few games he hasn't had a great deal to do, which is great from our side, but Nick needed to be ready, and it was a brilliant save. Strong right hand. Yeah, match-defining moment for sure.
And one last thing, Eddie, in terms of just the overall solidity of the team, the core and the strength of it, you must be really pleased with that.
Yeah, very pleased with the general structure of the team and the effort levels and the commitment, because you don't keep clean sheets unless you're really functioning very well as a group, and we are. Now there's stuff to improve, of course, and teams study, and as we do, our opponents, and trying to work out plans to stop us. And I thought for the home team today, we had a lot, or the away team, we had a lot of the ball today, and Palace at times were very deep. So certainly puzzles for us to try and solve in the future.
Newcastle United's head coach Eddie Howe there speaking to Rob Nothman. The Magpies have the first leg of their League Cup semi-final away at Southampton on Tuesday night. That will, of course, be live here on BBC Radio Newcastle. An 8 o'clock kickoff on Tuesday night. Total Sport starting live from St Mary's as well. Total Sport on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Non-league-wise yesterday, not much went ahead because of the weather, but there was a terrific draw away from home for Blythe Spartans. They were 2-0 down at Gloucester City in National League North after just 14 minutes. They then went down to 10 men 10 minutes later when Nicky Deverix was sent off. But Troy Chiabi scored just before half-time. Isaac Walker levelled just after the hour mark, and Blythe very much held on for a 2-2 draw, much to the delight of their manager Graham Fenton, who spoke to BBC Radio Newcastle's Dom James after the final whistle.
More than pleasing, just showed a load of character, really good understanding of how to play against a side with an extra body. So delighted with the lads. It was just a mad 6-7 minutes where we started really well, got on top of them, and then had a mad 6-7 minutes where we conceded 2, and the referee decided it would be a really good decision to send someone off for an innocuous challenge. It wasn't even a yellow card, never mind a red, and that's what the linesman on our side said. So disappointing that happened, but yeah, we'll focus on our lads, and just really, really delighted with how they reacted and came back in the game and got a magnificent point. We knew we were kind of having to play on the counter-attack, hold a good shape. They were keeping the ball, albeit not kind of threatening overly much with an extra body. So yeah, the goal really helped us in terms of momentum and positivity at half time. And we just said to the lads, look, we're going to get opportunities, whether it be off a set piece or a counter attack, and we got one. And again, look, I'll be honest and say it probably wasn't a penalty, but we'll take it. So I don't know if the referee was trying to even it up after one bad decision. He's made another bad decision. So that's the way it goes, and we've got a little bit of luck after a bit of bad luck.
Yeah, I mean, a point against Gloucester, who I think started the day in the playoff places as well. So you might have taken a point before you even went there. But,
no, not really. No, I mean, I've watched some footage of them, knew where we could exploit them. Before their first goal, we thought we were by far the better team, albeit they have a very good player on the right wing who we didn't deal with, and he obviously scored 2 very good goals. So yeah, they obviously exploited a little bit of weakness. But yeah, in terms of teams, it was certainly nothing between them. In fact, I would probably say that we were the better team across the game.
And I guess you'll be looking to use this result now and performance to maybe try and get some momentum going in the league.
Yeah, look, we need to. It's not a question of like hoping. It's we need to get momentum. Hopefully, this is the catalyst for it. Very good buoyant camp after the game, even though it's only a point. But yeah, we have to roll it into Tuesday against Southport and go full out to get 3 points.
That Graham Fenton there, then the Blythe Spartans manager after their 2-2 draw at Gloucester City yesterday, talking to Dom James. The only other non-league game of interest to us yesterday that survived the weather was in the Scottish Lowland League. Berwick Rangers eventually, after a topsy-turvy game, drawing 3-3 at Cumbernauld Colts. Berwick were actually ahead twice in that game, but then found themselves 3-2 down. It was a 94th minute equaliser that gave them a point from that one. In rugby union, Newcastle Falcons ended their European Challenge Cup campaign yesterday by beating the Irish side Connacht 35-21 at Kingston Park. Mickey Young, Matthias Orlando, Matthias Carreras scoring the first half tries, Pete Lucock and Josh Barton scoring the second half tries. There was a hat-trick actually in there for the Connacht prop, Finlay Beelum, as well, but the Falcons already knew before the game started that they were not going to be able to qualify for the knockout stages, even with a victory. In basketball, in the BBL Championship on Friday night, Newcastle Eagles lost by 5 points at home to Manchester Giants. Talking of topsy-turvy, that was this one as well. They were 12 up at the end of the first quarter. They then lost the second quarter by 14 and the third by 11. So despite a bit of a rally in the final 10 minutes, they were not able to close that gap sufficiently. 83 of those 92 points shared by just 4 players as well. Javion Hamlet, Justin Gordon, Kyle Johnson and Hassan French. They have an opportunity, though, to redeem themselves. They are at Bristol Flyers this afternoon. That one tips off at 4 o'clock. And a couple of games for our sides in the WBBL yesterday. Durham Palatinate, terrific victory by a couple of points, 69-67 over Caledonia Gladiators. Harriet Otterville Soulsby with a huge 28-point haul in that one, which isn't far off the total for Newcastle Eagles when they faced London Lions as a team. 123-43 they were beaten by a rampant Lions side at the arena yesterday. In the ice hockey today in North Division 1, Whitley Warriors away at Billingham Stars. It does feel a bit like they play each other every week at the moment. This one very much a league match though. 5:30 the face-off down on Teesside. Other bits and pieces from around the world at the Australian Open tennis. The women's top seed Iga Swiatek is out. She lost to the Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina in the 4th round. The 7th seed Coco Gauff, who beat British number 1 Emma Raducanu earlier in the tournament, she also lost, beaten in straight sets by Yelena Ostapenko. In the men's singles, Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime then became the 6th top 10 seed to exit the tournament as well. He lost to the Czech player Yuri Lehečka in round 4. Lehečka, you may remember, had beaten the other British number 1, Cameron Norrie, in round 3. In the boxing, Liam Smith says he is open to anything after stopping Chris Eubank Jr. in round 4 of their middleweight contest in Manchester last night. Eubank has a rematch clause, but Smith has said that the former welterweight world champion Kell Brook, or indeed the middleweight great Gennady Golovkin, were also options of his. In netball, England lost their quad series opener as Australia came from behind to seal a 61-55 victory in Cape Town. In snooker, Judd Trump is about to start taking on Mark Allen in the World Grand Prix final in Cheltenham. In the semis yesterday, Trump beat Sean Murphy 6-2. Allen was a 6-1 winner over Thailand's Nopon Sangkam. And in golf, it was all set up to be a terrific final day at the HSBC Championships in Abu Dhabi, and that is what we got. Victor Perez, the Frenchman, with a final round of 66. He was even able to bogey the last, but he wins the tournament by a shot from Sebastian Söderberg of Sweden and Minwoo Lee of Australia, both on 17 under, Perez winning it on 16 under. Shane Lowry had a terrible final round of 76. He was joint leader overnight. Terrible round of 76. Finishes on 9 under, so 9 shots off the lead in the end. Francesco Molinari, who was the other joint leader, with a 71 today. So he finishes 4 shots behind, but Victor Perez winning the golf in Abu Dhabi. But we will go back to the Stadium of Light. Level at half-time, goalless at half-time. Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 0, but back with full second-half commentary in just a second. Nick Barnes and Gary Bennett.
Nick Barnes and Gary Bennett, MBE. BBC Radio Newcastle.
Well, Sunderland out for the second half. Still bitterly cold. Johnny Howson leading Middlesbrough out. He's come out at a hurry. The keeper's strolling out as though he's got all day. But his players follow him behind. A little jog through the cones laid out on the pitch. And Middlesbrough will take up their positions away to our left, defending the north end of the Stadium of Light in the second half. Sunderland, as they, of course, prefer to do in the second half, attacking the north end of the stadium. 0-0 then, those opportunities Sunderland will be hoping they won't be ruining come full time.
Indeed, and one thing's for sure, Nick, expectations. Expect Middlesbrough to come out in this second half a lot quicker and make it a lot more difficult for Sunderland. So we've got to be wary of that.
Indeed, James Linnington in sea green turquoise top, waiting for the nod from the floor manager. Of course, this game being televised live. He stands at the edge of the pitch at the moment with the fourth official, Darren Bond, and the players ready with Stewart on the halfway line to get the second half started, and we do now. We're underway, and the ball pushed out on the right to Trey Hume, and now Roberts just ahead of him, back to Hume. Sunderland forced to make one change in the first half when Evans was injured, and Michu has taken his place. There were 2 changes at the start of play. Bart in for the suspended O'Nien, and Elise in for Gooch, who we understand is injured. Here's Ballard playing the ball out wide again to Roberts, inside to Ahmad, taps it back to Neil, and back again to Danny Bart, and Bart across here to Ballard, who has to put a sprint on to get to it, but he gets it forwards to Hume, and now Roberts, and back to Hume on the right wing, halfway inside the Middlesbrough half, inside to Ahmad, and Ahmad again back to Ballard, just inside the Borough half, and he on the right, Crooks on his shoulder, he plays it back to Danny Bart, and Bart now across on the left here, looking for Clark tackled by Smith, Tommy Smith, and a throw on the right, quickly taken by Clark, over the head of Smith to Stewart, back out to Clark on this left-hand side, on the touchline, he cuts in a couple of yards, and now will just twist away from McGree if he can, and plays it inside to Michu, and Michu in fact was forced, he turned away from, back to Bart, and across here now to Ballard, and out wide on the right this time to Roberts, into the centre again here now, and Hume through to Stewart, back at the edge of the area, just came down off Hume, he couldn't quite get it under control, and Crooks is trying to bring this up here now to McGree into the Sunderland half on the left-hand side, and trying to get it inside now, eventually tackled but fouled, says the referee, by Hume, and a free kick left of midfield, probably 10-15 yards in from touch, a third of the way inside the Sunderland half, quickly taken, swept back to Lenihan on almost the halfway line, but still just inside the Sunderland half. Elise heads the ball away from the corner of the penalty area, drops to Clark, tries to get it back inside to Elise, but Marcus Force intercepts and gets it back to Zach Steffen, the goalkeeper. Out to Dale Fry.
88th
Fry swings it up into the Sunderland half. Bart heads it down. Elise trying to keep it in. Does just. And it's swept up to Lenihan, who heads it down now in front of him to Hackney. And up onto halfway, Ballard. Hayden Hackney trying to nip in front of Roberts. The ball gets out on the left to Giles and inside to McGree. McGree now trying to get through the centre, then out wide on the left again. A first-time cross from Giles, sails into the Roker end. And it's a goal kick to Sunderland. Patterson all in green. 3 minutes into the
gone down there,
second half. Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 0. Live on BBC Radio Newcastle. Patterson places the ball down in the middle of his 6-yard line.
Got a penalty here.
On the left corner
Sunderland's
is Bart
got a penalty
at the 6-yard box.
Sunderland's got a penalty. Middlesbrough's had a player sent off.
Hangs in the air,
Middlesbrough's had a player
right,
sent off.
And Hume's beaten to it. Headed away by Ballard, but straight to the feet of McGree. Cutting across then is Ballard to try and get the ball away from the Australian. Holding him off on the touchline and turning it down the line to Ahmad, to Roberts, and Roberts looks for Stewart. Stewart now trying to get ahead of the defender. They're tussling with each other. Stewart goes down in the penalty area.
It's a penalty.
The referee's given the penalty. Stewart and the defender were tussling. Stewart gets into the penalty area. Down he goes, and James Linnington has awarded the penalty and a red card. Ahmad's whipping up the crowd.
It's a penalty, Ant. It's a penalty. It's a penalty.
I'm sure that was a red card whipped out then, wasn't it?
Yes, red card. I tell you what a pass by Patrick Roberts on the volley.
It was a fantastic
Has he changed it to a yellow
pass. And
it's a red card.
It's definitely, is it Fry?
It's Fry, Dale Fry.
Dale Fry, who's been sent off just 4 minutes into the second half. So Borough are down to 10 men. Dale Fry has been dismissed as he pushed Stewart down in the penalty area as he was trying to get away from the centre half.
Get in! His keeper saves it, but Stewart puts in the rebound.
And James Linnington quite a long way back.
Keeper saved the penalty initially. He saved it, but it bounced nicely to Stewart.
It's great strength by Stewart. Great determination to make sure he gets onto that ball.
So, a penalty, and Ross Stewart.
Where are you going? You're rolling back the years there,
rolling
aren't
back
you?
the years. Tommy Smith.
Come on.
Right back. Marcus Stewart. Ross Stewart about to take this penalty then for Sunderland. Here he comes, Stewart at the north end. Roll! Save, but he's going to put it in!
Yeah!
Ross Stewart puts in the rebound.
Get in!
1-0 to Sunderland. The penalty well saved by Stefan, diving down to his left. But Stewart followed up and tapped it home.
Do you expect us to win this now, lads, or not?
And Sunderland lead the game by a 1-0, and a change. Crooks is coming off, and Paddy McNair is coming on for Middlesbrough. So it's all happening then.
I'll tell you what, Ross Stewart deserved that. But I tell you what, it's the ball by Patrick Roberts on the volley.
Oh, lovely ball
what
over the top.
What a ball that was. But determination, and he wanted to win it. He got in front of him, and it was a penalty. He pushed him.
Yeah, he pushed him over.
He got in front of him.
And so Sunderland lead by a 0-0. Ross Stewart, his 11th goal of the season, his 10th in the championship, and his 3rd penalty. Although technically it was a follow-up, so I guess that goes down as a goal from open play, and Sunderland leading. The atmosphere changes again significantly, with Middlesbrough now down to 10 and chasing the game. And here's Clark inside to Mishu, urged to shoot. He does. It looked like it took a deflection. It did. It's a corner. To Sunderland on the right, their 3rd corner of the game, leading by a 0-0.
This will test Sunderland's character now. I mean, We should go and win this.
Paddy McNair then on for Matt Crooks up front as the ball swept in here, and Stewart putting a foot to it, but over the top. Looks for the corner.
Give
but goal kick. So Sunderland 1, Middlesbrough 0. We are 9 minutes nearly into the second half. And last week it was Sunderland having to see the game out with 10. This week it's Middlesbrough. Fry's marching orders, last man, push.
We're all over these at the minute, like.
And Patrick Roberts, his ball over the top was perfect. Now Clark trying to get on the end of one, but it dropped over him, and Tommy Smith hooks it forwards. Elise is under pressure from Marcus Force, but he hooks it back over his head. Clark nods it down now to Elise. Paddy McNair here wrestling with Stewart. Stewart beats him. Oh, a lovely ball by Ahmad now to Clark, wide on the left-hand side here. Ahmad goes through the middle, sprinting into the penalty area as Roberts. And it's still with Clark in the box, swings one in, and it hangs in the air. It's headed away by Giles, nodded back by Neil. Ahmad on the far side, and he
Sunderland get a second
on the right
of
central midfield to Stewart, comes back behind Ahmad. It'll be picked up though by Elise just in front of the centre circle to Hume, and then to Neil, through to Ahmad again. And Ahmad, nice ball, trying to turn it down to Stewart, foot to it, and behind for a goal kick. (1-0) to Sunderland. So the ball back with Zach. Stefan passes it to Paddy McNair, and McNair now partnering Lenihan in the centre of defence. McNair who was actually dropped for Lenihan to come back into the team this afternoon, the former Sunderland player McNair, of course. Here's Howson to Smith, up to the halfway line, Bart, and Bart back here to Anthony Patterson. And Patterson out wide on the far side. Hume inside to Dan Neil. Neil forwards to Roberts, back to Neil. Neil, short pass to Ahmad, squares it inside again to Dan Neil on halfway, and then out wide on the right-hand side. And then back inside to Roberts and Ahmad. Hume is behind him, but it's gone back to Neil. Mishu to his left. And Mishu now across to Elise. Elise, Force trying to close him down, but it's played it back into the middle to Dan Neil. And Neil through here to Roberts on the right of midfield. Back to Dan Neil. And he swings it, swipes it across to Clark here on the left wing. Clark plays it back behind him to Elise. Elise into Neil, 25 yards out here to Roberts, back to Neil. He squares it now to Hume. Hume into Roberts, back to Hume. A block made, it's going to fall for Roberts. Roberts trying to get it through, but Middlesbrough win it back. McGree trying to clear it, but it's blocked. And from Hume back to Bart in the centre circle. Danny Bart forwards again now to Trey Hume in the middle, who plays it out wide on this left-hand side to Jack Clark. Clark cutting inside. Now down the left-hand wing is Ross Stewart, almost on the goal line, but he pauses, brings it back, taps it back to Neil. Neil across then to Hume again, and out wide to Ahmad. And Ahmad, he's got Roberts making a run into the box, but he plays it back to Dan Neil, forwards and back again to Neil. And now Ahmad at the corner of the penalty, a little back heel to Roberts. Inside again to Ahmad, back to Roberts. And Roberts cutting across into midfield, just laying it off behind to Dan Neil, then Hume. And Hume back to Neil. Mishu's just to his left, but he goes right to Ahmad. Down the right of the penalty area, back inside to Roberts, looking for Ahmad, but it's just gone behind him, and Giles will clear. Only as far as Ballard, who leaves it here for Neil. Neil out to Ahmad, and then Roberts just ahead of him a couple of yards out on the right, and Ahmad just behind him. Now inside again to Roberts, back trying to find Ahmad. Giles clears only as far as Ballard, and Ballard out to Clark on this left-hand side. He stabs it inside looking for Elise, but Howson will beat him to it, gets it inside to Hackney, and then out wide again, and Smith on to Force. And Force being chased back by Clark. Clark gets a foot round it, but it runs into the centre. Hackney forwards to Akpom in the middle of the Sunderland half. He loses it. He's fouled, says the referee. Right in the centre by Dan Neil. Free kick to Middlesbrough, who are playing with 10 and trailing 1-0. Here on BBC Radio Newcastle. So now this free kick right in the centre of the Sunderland half. Middlesbrough in their change blue, all blue, white trim. Sunderland in their red and white stripes, of course. Lining up at the edge of the penalty area, 2 in the wall. Clark and Ahmad. Is that Howson over the free kick? It's Johnny Howson taps it to his left, and then Hackney across to Smith, back to Howson, and Howson now lifts it up into the penalty area, and well, it's headed straight down at Patterson. Akpom's picked up the loose ball, pulls it back at McGree, and he kicks it just past the foot of the right post. Sunderland all over the place.
Made a mess of that.
They were lulled by the slowness of the initial free kick, I think, and then they got themselves in a right pickle. And McGree was unfortunate not to see that dribble into the bottom corner.
Well, when it was headed down, again, Patterson should have done better. He's fumbled it, really.
So still 1-0 to Sunderland. Ross Stewart's goal in the 51st minute. His penalty save, but he followed through. And now here's
come on.
Roberts, Mishu's tackled by Hackney. Out to Force on the right. Drives one in from the angle, but it swings into the arms.
We've got to switch
Patterson.
On. Even though we're playing against 10. Don't get sloppy.
They're starting. They're a bit of a lull from them, isn't there? Sunderland just seem to have,
and that's what
as you say, switched off.
And that's what Tony Mowbray's saying to him.
The ball rolled out to Dan Neil through the middle, up towards halfway, out wide to Roberts, back behind him Trey Hume, back again to Ballard, and across here to Danny Bart. Bart bringing this out now, and short pass to Dan Neil. Neil forwards to Ahmad, out wide again then to Roberts, inside to Ahmad. Hume, he plays it inside to Neil, and now tap forwards down the right to Ahmad. Roberts making that run down the right of the penalty area, out towards the touchline, kind of come in past Giles if he can, onto his left, back to Ahmad at the edge of the area, trying to tee up Roberts, who plays it just behind him to Neil, who taps it to Elise, and Elise out to Clark. Clark cutting inside again, trying to shake off Smith, and now Howson, and now into the path of Ahmad. Ahmad to Roberts in the box, and now lining up. Oh! A chance for Mishu, but it was blocked at the edge of the 6-yard box. And now they come again, Sunderland, down the right-hand side with Roberts, and Mishu just inside of him, but the ball slips out for a throw to Sunderland. Mishu drove it low, and if he'd gone a little higher, he might have had more joy. But it's still 1-0 to Sunderland. And now Hume inside to Neil, and Mishu just inside of him. Back it goes to Ballard, and into the centre circle to Bart. Now Elise to Mishu, back again to Danny Bart, and then Ballard. Neil just inside the Middlesbrough half, played an hour, and now here's Neil again, tries it into the middle to Stewart. Stewart now trying to find an opening. He's got Clark to his left. Stewart jogs into the penalty area. Clark tackle, but the ball falls to Mishu. Mishu just squares it to Neil. Neil to Ahmad and Roberts on the right of the penalty area. Roberts cross. It'll be caught by the goalkeeper. Stefan stretches, plucks it down in his bright yellow, the American international, and rolls it out to Hackney. And now Smith. Hackney back to Paddy McNair, back to Stefan. Stefan is turned it away from Stewart. Giles hooks it on. Lenihan hooks it on. And now Akpom fouls Ballard on halfway. Free kick to Sunderland. Duncan Watmore warming up again for Middlesbrough. Sunderland leading 10-man Middlesbrough, then 1-0 in the 63rd minute. Neil to Hume in the middle again, and then to Mishu, back to Hume, and out wide to Ahmad, and then down the right of the penalty area to Stewart. He's going to try and get inside, but wins a corner. Corner on the right-hand side for Sunderland, their 4th of the game. Ahmad's down there to take it. Only Elise back up near the centre circle. Daniel crouched at the back of the D. Ahmad then from the right-hand side, and it's McNair who heads it away, but it's going to be kept in on that far side by Roberts. He's got it on the touchline, then slips it into Ahmad, back to Roberts. McGree in front of him, Roberts onto his left foot, swings in the cross, and diving at it, looking for a penalty is Ballard, but he's not going to get it. Pleading with the referee as he's pulled down on the 6-yard line, or went down on the 6-yard line, but the referee having none of it.
Great ball in by Roberts.
Goal kick to Middlesbrough. Stefan just placing the ball on his 6-yard line. The players heading across to this near side on halfway, waiting for the kick. And here it is, down the right. Elise gets above Akpom. He'll come back through McNair though to deal with this, and he will turn in front of Ross Stewart and play it back to Zach Stefan, who kicks it up into the centre circle to Ballard. They're going to make a change, and Cameron Archer's going to come on for Middlesbrough. He's on loan from Aston Villa. He's only made 6 Premier League appearances for Villa this season, Cameron Archer. And here's Mishu, forwards to Stewart, looking here to get Mishu away again, and but won back by Middlesbrough. McGree back to Lenihan, comes off in the end of Hume. I think it's a throw to Middlesbrough on the far side, and the substitution we made. Force is coming off, and Archer is coming on. In the 65th minute. Throw to
we always want that second goal, Nick.
Well, I think they've been knocking on the door in the last few minutes, but you hope that impetus hasn't run away, don't you?
As it stays 1-0, we always say he's still in the game.
They're still in it, and they're still more than capable of scoring in it. But Sunderland, look, they're making the right noises, they're making the right moves. They've been knocking on the door, but that was a poor ball given away to Tommy Smith, who clears it to Archer, or tried to, but it comes off the Aston Villa loanee for a throw to Sunderland.
Taking a knock down.
Yeah, Elise's taken a knock. He's gone down.
He signalled straight away to the bench.
His left ankle, his left foot, stretching his left leg at the moment. Is it cramp? Cramp? I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks as though it is, doesn't it? I mean,
cramp.
Yeah, he's gone down, and his left leg being stretched below us now.
Bailey Wright will be warming up, I would imagine.
What would they do? Wright comes on.
Well, they can play with 3, can't they?
Yeah, and play with a 3. Clark
will play as a wing back. Hume will play as a wing back. That's what I presume.
If Elise doesn't continue, yeah. I mean, it's all the players come down to the touchline here for a drink, and a little bit of instruction going on, certainly on the Middlesbrough side of things. Michael Carrick right in the middle of all his players having a conversation. Middlesbrough losing 1-0 at the moment, down to 10 men. Dale Fry sent off for pushing Stewart down in the penalty area after fantastic ball from Patrick Roberts over the top from halfway. Stewart chasing it, and Fry was quite clearly trying to impede him as he made a run towards the penalty area and then pushed him in the box. Elise still receiving treatment here. Don't forget, full commentary on Tuesday night from St Mary's in Southampton of Southampton Newcastle in the League Cup semi-final first leg with Razor and Ando. We're back with you next Saturday from Craven Cottage, Fulham against Sunderland in the FA Cup. Another intriguing encounter, another big test for Sunderland. Elise still receiving treatment. It's being hauled up to his feet now. And are they calling for Bailey Wright? It looks as though there might be a change. Bailey Wright is certainly coming back and taking off his bib and coat. I think he's going to come on for...
Yeah, Hume's going to come at left back, looks like.
Hume's come across here to the left at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to play left.
Elise still off the pitch. Wright stripping off. The ball back to Bart. Forwards now to Dan Neil. And out on the right is Roberts. Back to Ahmad, Ballard, Ahmad again. Wright will be coming on. Elise, I think, has actually gone down the tunnel, has he?
Yeah.
Gone down the tunnel, hasn't he?
No,
he's back on. No, he's back on. He's back on. He's come back on, but I think he'll soon be coming back off. As Wright getting instruction. McGree here on the left for Middlesbrough, tracking down that left side with Giles, and Giles has made the run into the penalty area. He's pulled it back.
Great.
Stabbed away though by
Bart
at stretch, and now picked up by Dan Neil. McGree chasing him, but Neil's seen Stewart on the left here. Stewart running onto this ball. Ahmad labouring to get forward from that right hand side.
With him. You've got to get up with
Clark
him and
is behind, but not making a run. It's rolled in here.
Nobody's making,
but
you've got to run
in front of Michoud, kicks the post, and it's cleared. It's come out to Clark, and now leaves it for Hume in the middle, who plays it out to the right to Roberts, and Roberts just leaving it for Michoud again, and Michoud back behind him, Dan Neil, and Neil just short pass to the right again to Trey Hume. Hume down the right to Ahmad, back it comes again. Hume inside to Neil, and Neil swings it across to Clark on this left hand side, takes it on his chest, plays it back to Elise. Bailey Wright limbering up on the touchline still. Back to Danny Bart. 20 minutes left. Sunderland 1, Middlesbrough 0. And Neil, swung a ball right up through and over the goal line. I think he hurt himself doing that, Neil. And Wright will come on. Elise just sat down, and Elise coming off now. And on comes Bailey Wright. So a second enforced change. Evans off in the first half, and now Elise in the second half. And Bailey Wright playing right back, Hume left back. We didn't see that coming.
No.
McGree, his Australian counterpart, in front of him, but a foul by Neil.
I would have just left Hume as maybe a wing back and Clark as a wing back.
Perhaps more sense, but they're keeping a 4.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Bailey Wright 1v1.
And now trying to thread it through for Archer. Comes back to Hackney. Hackney goes round, one challenge from Ballard, then sent it over the bar. A lot of anger down there from Patterson and Ballard. Not happy with that, but it's gone over for a goal kick. Sunderland still lead 10-man Middlesbrough 1-0 here on BBC Radio Newcastle. Going to recover the ball, and yet they've got it. Patterson's got it, places it in the middle of his 6-yard line. Short pass out to Ballard. Back to Bart. Bart now pausing and playing it square to his left to Ballard. Ballard out to Clark. And interesting now, Ballard's taken up the left position,
side,
hasn't he?
Yeah.
And Bart on the right, with Bailey Wright on the right back position. Back into the middle to Bart. Here to Ballard. Ballard out wide again to Clark on halfway, closed down by Archer, but holding him off as he tracks across the halfway line, then plays it back to Bailey Wright. And out wide is Roberts.
I think what they've done, they've gone into a 3 at the back. Roberts is sort of playing as a wing back as well.
Yeah,
Clark's playing as a wing back, and
yeah.
Hume's gone into the middle.
Here is Michoud in the middle, on the left of midfield now, out to Clark on this left-hand side. Ahead of him is Hume, but he's come back here to Ballard on the halfway line. Across to Bailey Wright now, and Wright on halfway out wide to Ahmad. Ahmad forwards to Roberts. Roberts inside to Ahmad again, and Roberts again. Just short pass back to Neil, and then down the right wing to Ahmad. Coming in on Giles at the edge of the penalty area. Ahmad into the penalty area, tries to find Stewart, back to goal, stabs it back to Roberts, and he lifts it over the top.
Right. You weren't
well
set right.
wide. Wasn't set right at all, was he? Off balance, puts it behind for a goal kick to Middlesbrough.
And I think
17 minutes left.
I think sometimes if you're looking for, shall we say, a negative thing, is that, great play around that 18-yard box, but at times I think we need to pull the trigger. Sometimes we might overdo it. In other words, try to walk the ball in.
They do try and over-elaborate, don't they? Here, then, Stefan with the goal kick from the centre of his 6-yard line, north end of the stadium. He drives it up straight past Ballard, drops for Hume, who knocks it on, but to the head of Howson, and now out to Archer. Clark gets a foot to it, bounces out. Tony Mowbray catches it, spins it round his back. Smith takes the throw, back to McNair, and the Northern Ireland international plays it back to Lenihan, Republic of Ireland international. Out to Giles on the left, looking for Archer on the shoulder of
How you doing, Benji?
He's got it out to McGree. McGree down the left wing for Middlesbrough. Back behind him to Giles. Giles.
Are you comfortable, lads? You think we're going to hang on to this?
Hackney, and then into Tommy Smith in the centre circle. McNair's out here on the right-hand side. We know McNair's got a shot on him if he gets anywhere near the penalty area. And back from Smith to Stefan, the goalkeeper. In his bright yellow, plays it up to McGree, just in the Sunderland half, on halfway. Bailey Wright trying to get the better of him. Hackney has it now on the left, on the halfway line. Plays it back to Lenihan. Forwards again to McGree, back to Lenihan. He's just behind the centre circle, and now looks up and sees the run of Smith on this right-hand side. Hugh.
See, this is where they can be dangerous on set pieces.
Hugh gets in front of him and lets the ball run out for a throw
well done,
at the corner to Sunderland.
I tell you what, I've been really impressed with Hugh since he's come in.
And to his credit, he was the one been banging on Tony Mowbray's door for a chance, and now he's got the chance. He's grabbed it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Hume then will take this throw with 15 minutes left. Sunderland leading 10-man Middlesbrough 1-0.
Yeah.
Throw off the head of Stewart, headed back again by Smith. Stewart comes back down off him for Archer, for Akpom, sorry, with Archer behind him, and out behind for a corner.
Talk. You know, and you're thinking Middlesbrough to get back into the game, what it might be from a set piece.
Middlesbrough's last draw, November the 5th.
We need a second. We need a second
City,
to get to settle the fans' nerves, I think.
They're not known for draws under Michael Carrick. It's largely win, but they're behind here, 1-0. But at 1-0, they're still very much in the game, even though they've got 10 men.
Sit down, Cadenson.
Howson's going to take the corner on the right at the Roker end and drives this in. Is headed away by Ballard. McGree turns it down to Hackney. Tried to get it in to Giles, but it's played out into touch by Dan Neal. Throw to Middlesbrough.
Managing the game, Nick.
Yeah,
that's what
they've got to see this out now.
Manage the game.
Well, what they could do with is a second goal.
That's all Middlesbrough at the minute. You certainly wouldn't think we were a man up.
But throw to Middlesbrough. On the left, Giles to take this, being ushered back a couple of yards by James Linnington, the referee. Back it comes to Lenihan and into the middle to Paddy McNair. And McNair, short pass to his right to Tommy Smith.
Well done.
Then the ball forward, whipped away by Hugh, but a poor pass into the middle, looking for Ahmad.
Still 1-0.
And Middlesbrough have it back again, up to halfway, laid off by Hackney and back inside to Howson, and Howson plays it back to Lenihan. And Lenihan across to Howson here. Stewart is the one hounding him, and then Smith, you know, back to McNair.
Ross Stewart is running from man to man there. You know, Jack Clark can help him out.
Yeah, he's not doing a lot of that at the moment. As they play it through, looking for Akpom, and it's cleared by Bart over Stewart's head, and back here to McNair.
That's what Ahmed's saying. Push on. Don't sit back.
I think Tony Mowbray's having a word with Clark as well.
You've got to push on a little bit.
Now McNair swings the ball out wide left, looking for Giles. Brings it down in front of Roberts plays it back to
You've got to
Lenihan.
squeeze now, you've got to close.
Ahmad goes to close him down, but Lenihan steps round him, tried to get it through to Giles, and now Giles has got it from Archer. Giles left of the penalty area, cut out by Bart, is cross. Archer turns on it, teeing up McGree. He leaves it in turn to Smith.
Got the man advantage.
It takes a deflection over the top, and it's a corner.
We've got to close down. It only takes one of you who don't do the job, and they're out. And that's the worry. You've got to freshen things up. I think that's what he's going to bring Barr on, or somebody who's going to actually run about.
I think Barr is coming on. Certainly getting ready.
Middlesbrough going to get an equaliser, really, like they're all over us at the minute.
I think Bennett might be coming on as well.
Absolutely,
the ball drops to
Ahmad. In the box.
Isn't up and under. It bounces in the penalty area. Ballard trying to clear. Roberts gets it clear. And then out by Dan Neil. But it'll be headed back again. Neil going up again to try and head it clear. Back it comes to
break. There he is.
Ross Stewart. And he gets it back again on this left-hand side. Trying to shake off Akpom, but McGree gets the foot to it. Stewart trying to clear it again, but Akpom's got it. Out to Hackney on this right side. Looking for McGree. Hume tries to tackle him. McGree gets it back to Hackney. Back to McGree wide. Back again to Tommy Smith. And down the line to McGree. Inside to Hackney in the penalty area. Plays it across. Bailey Wright smashes it with his head out for a throw to Middlesbrough on the right-hand side. Barr and Bennett waiting, or will be coming on very shortly for Sunderland. In some shape or form, they've got to stop Middlesbrough growing in confidence here, having a little purple spell, purple patch. Hume gets it back to Patterson. Patterson then, with the ball at the edge of his 6-yard box, passes it to Ballard. Tony Mowbray trying to get his instructions to Barr and Bennett, which would be an interesting surprise. Get in! Costa Rica.
Get in!
He's fluent, man.
Get in!
Woo-hoo-hoo! Is he? I think.
Who?
Barr.
Diallo! Amad Diallo! Amad Diallo!
He speaks French, that's the point I'm making. Here's Dan Neil, who speaks English, across to Ballard.
Amad Diallo!
And that I can't argue. And here is Mishu.
Wide the other side.
Ahmad looking for Roberts. Roberts running at Giles. Edge of the area. Roberts still going, leaves it for Ahmad. Ahmad in the box, trying to get on his left foot.
Oh, what a goal.
Ahmad.
Unbelievable.
On his left, rolls over after an exquisite finish. 2-0 to Sunderland. And that was just beauty.
Oh,
excellent. That combination again, isn't it? Roberts and Ahmad. I tell you, it makes it look so easy.
He does. The way he just almost strolled through into the penalty area, tapped it onto his left foot and drove it past Stefan. And Ahmad has doubled the lead in the 80th minute. And surely now that is the game wrapped up. You'd have to hope so, with only 10 minutes to play. The substitutions being made. Roberts is coming off for Barr. And I think Clark, is it coming off as well? I mean, Clark's coming off over this near side with Roberts.
Yeah.
So I think it will be Clark that's going to replace. Bennett's going to replace. Well, a perfect time to come on.
Yeah.
When Ahmad's just scored, well, just a beautiful goal. I mean, it's just, that's what Ahmad can do.
You know, and again, we spoke about it. Man for man, Nick, we've got better quality.
And 9 minutes to see out, plus time. Here's Archer on the right, and it's Sunderland now very much in the ascendancy. Tommy Smith back to his goalkeeper, Zach Steffen. I think there's another change imminent. Duncan Watmore's going to come on for Middlesbrough. But Middlesbrough now chasing the game. And a push on Bart and Bennett on his left-hand side. But Bennett's gone down, the ball's gone out. No free kick, it's a throw. And who's coming off? McGree is coming off.
I wasn't being negative, I was just saying what was going on.
A few boos in there, so I'm a bit surprised actually. Duncan Watmore.
I'll tell you what, I would say Sunderland have deserved this.
Sunderland, in fact, he endured some pretty torrid times injury-wise. I'm disappointed.
What was that, 42,000?
That, to be honest, and I suspect he would be as well. Here's Dan Neal. Hackney gets away from him. Neal picks himself up, and Bailey Wright is at the back to do the tidying up. Back to Patterson. And now out to Ballard. Sunderland 2, Middlesbrough 0. Middlesbrough playing with 10, but look, with 210, Ahmad would still have scored that goal the way he just got through past players and then on to his left foot to score a beautiful goal to make it 2-0. Back it comes to Bart. The attendance 42,584 this afternoon. This Sunday lunchtime. It's an enjoyable way to have Sunday lunch, either listening or watching this game. Watching Sunderland looking like they're going to win this local rival. Beat this local rival as Bennett brings the ball down here just inside the Middlesbrough half. Plays it, taps it back to
Ian
Ballard.
Curry, how are you
It's
doing?
just a case of not doing anything senseless now. You don't want to give a goal away now to give something for Middlesbrough to chase in the last few minutes as Akpom puts pressure on Bart. He gets it back to
we're ninth off top
Patterson,
at the minute.
and up into the Middlesbrough half, headed away by Lenihan. Bailey Wright gets his head to it, drops for Neal, and now Ahmad just stretching was Barr, but it's come through for Michoud, and now Stewart. Ahmad on his shoulder. Stewart still going. Stewart drives it past the angle of bar and post.
Unlucky.
Not far wide, entitled to have a go as well, really. You know, in the position that Sunderland are in now. And
tell you what, it's mad, isn't it? We were down in the dumps last week, like
down on the far side.
off,
No,
game's knackered,
must
and
be Dan
it's
Neal, I think.
completely mirror image, doesn't it? This game,
just
it's like 10 men
sitting on the pitch
man
on the
sent
far
off
side. I think
it's
it's
not
okay.
Dan Neal,
No,
no.
it's Michoud, I think, actually.
Michoud. Yeah. He's got the
Michoud,
gloves
yeah,
on,
he's got himself up. That's what we need up here, is identify. We have to rely on things like gloves, don't you, to say who's that
Stewart was
400
clean
miles
through,
away
he's
down there.
ballooned his chance well.
And goal kick for Middlesbrough. Zach Steffen then with this up through the middle. Bailey Wright holding off Watmore. Comes through to Barr. Barr now trying to get away on the right-hand side. Giles trying to track back with him, gets a foot to it, and he comes back towards the goal line. Barr in the corner with him, and Giles gets it clear, only as far as Neal, but it bounced off him for Howson. He's got Archer away here, and now Watmore trying to get through, but a block made by Ballard,
come on then.
and the ball given away to Smith. And now with Hackney again, he comes down to the right of midfield and taps it here to Smith, forwards to Akpom.
We've never massively been under
knocked
the
off
threat.
him by Bennett, back to Neal, and now
you've
through
gone the other way.
to
We've
Barr,
never really,
and,
we've never really massively
Stewart
been on
ushering
the,
him
on,
out to the
on
right.
the threat. I mean, the man
There's
smells
Ahmad
Middlesbrough, but
on the halfway line on the right-hand side. 5
comfortable
minutes
from us.
less to play, but we'll have a little bit of added time. I suspect 4 or 5 minutes. Michoud again, back to Dan Neal, forwards to Barr.
And if also,
and leaves it for
if there's
Ahmad,
anybody
back
knows
to
who the
Barr.
Preston manager
Ahmad
is, can he
just
please give both our
touches
channels
it
to
into the middle to
subscribe,
Dan
thank you.
Neal. Tony Mowbray's arms outstretched here on the left with Bennett in acres of space. It comes across to this left-hand side now. Hume still in his own half, back to Ballard, inside to Neal, back to Ballard, inside
I think
again
this
to
was the
Neal,
playoff final at Wembley, wasn't
and
it?
across to Danny Barr, forwards to Barr. Barr cutting inside again. Hume calling for it. Barr in the centre circle, finds Hume, forwards to Bennett. Bennett now trying to skip around Smith, and the ball comes out off Smith. for a throw to Sunderland.
Free kick, is it?
3 minutes. In fact, is he given a foul for free kick for the push on Bennett? Yeah, he has. And Hume takes it to Michoud, and then to the centre circle to Bailey Wright. Sunderland leading 2-0. Middlesbrough have been playing without Dale Fry since the 50th minute. And Paddy McNair clears with Barr on his shoulder. Throw then to
We've been very solid, Ian. We've really been solid from start to finish.
Leaves it for Bailey Wright to take.
A good performance from Sunderland, especially coming out second half and carrying on where we've left off.
It comes to Dan Neil, pushing it forwards to Barr. He's blocked. He's just went to sleep, and straight off him, Howson trying to get forwards. Barr gets it back again though now, and now Stewart. And there's a push by Howson
that's been
on
a big
Barr.
difference. It suits Sunderland, not
Howson
these Basildon Bond referees that are just happy.
The referee having
they can't
a word
keep the
with
whistle
him.
out the mouth and stuff. And
no question, I don't think, of a second yellow. But
no, I think the referee's been an absolute
caution in Johnny Howson's ear. Couple of minutes left of the 90. The Middlesbrough fans being taunted by the Sunderland fans at the Roker end on the halfway line. Neil drives it across square to Hume. Hume then back to Ballard. Ballard just looks up, out left again to Hume in front of Michael Carrick, looking for the run here of Michoud. Michoud.
Is this game played at the Stadium of Shite? Yes, it certainly is. Luna, whatever you
free kick. Smith is down as a free kick. Here on the Middlesbrough right.
It's the Stadium of Light, or you call it.
Minute of the 90 left. Smith sitting, crouching almost. The goalkeeper comes out for a word. Goes to help him up now. Zach Steffen. So first league defeat now, staring Michael Carrick in the face since the end of October. Steffen with the free kick.
Who's your man of the match for today, lads?
Very good performance from Sunderland this afternoon. Both halves should have been in front in the first half. They're 2-0 up now into the last minutes of the game. Forwards, they try and clear. It's flicked on though up towards Watmore, out here on the right hand side, trying to come past Hume. Gets to the byline. Duncan Watmore tries to square it, wins a corner off Ballard. And
Cheers, Ian.
Sunderland will want to. There's 5 minutes.
Player of the match, yeah. Ahmad Diallo's been given player of the match from Sky. Yeah.
Johnny Howson over on this right hand side with this 8th Middlesbrough corner at the Roker end now. Howson, left arm raised briefly, drives this in, headed away by Ballard. It'll come out to Smith, who smashes it back in. It comes out to Howson. A stretch here, and it's bobbling about. Akpom goes down in the 6-yard box.
You're just a small town in Yorkshire.
And Barr could be away here. Giles behind him, but down goes Barr. No free kick, says the referee. Barr looking for the referee to feel that he'd been pushed over, but just lost his footing really in the momentum. Hackney back to Giles. 4 minutes left. 2-0 to Sunderland. Here now is Smith, back to Paddy McNair in the Middlesbrough half. Lenihan back to McNair, and McNair drives it down the right to Archer, blocked by Hume, who keeps it in just, and Watmore wins it back. Watmore then leaves it for Archer, but it's stabbed out by Trey Hume. It'll be a throw taken by Tommy Smith on the right for Middlesbrough. Now into the centre circle with Lenihan back to McNair. McNair on halfway through the middle looking for Akpom, and he's being marshalled by Bart, but they find Watmore. Watmore now tackled at the edge of the
It's like Andy Murray when he wins Wimbledon, he's British.
Trying to get it out is Bennett, and now Hume back to Bennett on this left hand side, and Bennett cuts inside now into the centre and lays it off to Bailey Wright on the right, up to the halfway line to Barr. Barr now down the right, out wide to Ahmad. and inside again to Barr, and back to Bennett, who's cut across onto the right-hand side, back to Bailey Wright, and on halfway, Bailey Wright taps it to Dan Neal, then to Ballard in the centre circle at the back of it, and out to Hume on the left-hand side. Hume plays it back in the centre to Danny Bart. Bart to Dan Neal. Neal to Bart. Forwards to Neal. And this still just inside the Sunderland half.
Do you think this result would have been this if it was 11 men on the pitch each?
Back again to Ballard. And just keeping possession, playing it up towards Bennett. And it comes back off Tommy Smith into the path of Hackney now. And he's being chased by Neal. And Neal lunges in, the ball breaks for Bailey Wright. He clears this, and here's Ahmad over the halfway line. Stewart in the middle. Ahmad still going. He's got support from Barr, and Ahmad just holding it at the moment. Plays it to Barr, and Barr back to Ahmad, and Ahmad just holding it, holding off Lenihan, and then plays it back to Bailey Wright. Down to Ahmad on the right again. Just inside is Barr, but he plays it back to Dan Neal. Forwards to Stewart, back to Neal, and back on halfway it's Ballard. We've got I think 30 seconds left. Here's Hume on the left, and Hume out to Bennett, back to Hume, inside to Mishu, and now on halfway it's Neal and Bailey Wright. Neal threaded through, but straight to Lenihan. But seconds left of the game. Paddy McNair.
Carrick just wants to hear the whistle, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To be truthful.
And Lenihan.
Yeah, we get Ahmad on loan next season too. Be good if we did.
We got 5 was added on, so 1 left, and I thought, I was thinking for a minute it was 4, but we're into the last minute. Here's Archer into the penalty area. Akpom is looking for a corner. He's not going to get it, is he? It's a goal kick. He swept it wide, well wide of the left-hand post. It is now just over 30 seconds left for Sunderland to see out. They lead 2-0. People now believing they're leaving.
Yeah, and you know, you're talking about a lot of people talking about Middlesbrough in-form team, which they are, but you've got to say the way Sunderland have gone about it, you know, it's been a deserved win. It's not been a lucky win.
No,
and the sending off, mark my words, hasn't changed didn't change the game.
You know, last week they started so brightly against Swansea. You get the feeling that they would have done all right against Swansea if they'd kept the 10. They've done really well this afternoon, as you say, against an informed team, probably one of the best, probably the most informed team apart from Burnley and Sheffield United in the Championship at the moment. It's the full-time whistle blown, and Sunderland win 2-0. Goals from Stewart and Ahmad. Stewart following up when his penalty was saved, and Ahmad just a beautiful goal towards the end of the game. 10 minutes left. Despite Middlesbrough having 10 men from the 50th minute, as you say, I don't think it made a lot of difference. The way Sunderland played this afternoon, they've been by far, I think, the better team.
Yeah, they've been a better team all over, you know, and we talk about, yes, Middlesbrough have been on an excellent run, but you've got to say that it was down to quality, and you look at the both teams, and it's something we mentioned, if our quality players step up, you go and win the game, and they did step up today.
It's good to see so many staying behind, actually. They haven't all
what a team
left
we
the
are.
Stadium early.
Never mind supporting Man City. Sunderland's the team, Ollie. Sunderland's the team.
As I say, Middlesbrough's first defeat since the end of October.
He's a Man United.
This is a huge game to come into for all sorts of reasons.
And he got man of the match.
I think the way that Sunderland acquitted themselves, it was say they could have been 1 or 2 up in the first half. They could have had the game.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think when you reflect back on the game, it's not as though you can look and say Middlesbrough were unlucky. They weren't. On today's performance, Sunderland were the better team now. Sunderland have got to take that forward. And okay, we've got FA Cup, but again, if we can take that into the league, in our league form, then yeah, you're just going to say that we're not going to be too far away.
Very much so. Very much so. Then next week, they've got that cup tie at Craven Cottage against Fulham. Another interesting test. And in a way, that's a free hit next weekend. But another indication of just how far this team has come.
And I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, we want to play 1 or 2 players. One or 2 players would want to play at Fulham as well. But I won't be surprised if 1 or 2 players are rested as well.
Well, the way the squad is at the
we
moment,
haven't got players to rest.
not many players to
We haven't got many options.
Although there was some hope from Tony Mowbray that the likes of Dennis Serkin and Alex Pritchard might be back in time for that cup tie next weekend. But all credit to the team this afternoon. Changes were made. At least they had to come in for the injured Gooch. But Sunderland have run out winners by 2-0. Ross Stewart and Ahmad. We're back with Total Sport at 6 o'clock tomorrow night on BBC Radio Newcastle, and then it's live from St Mary's in Southampton on Tuesday. But it's finished here at the Stadium of Light. 42,584, Sunderland 2, Middlesbrough 0. To Ahmad, to Roberts, and Roberts looks for Stewart. Stewart now trying to get ahead of the defender. They're tussling with each other. Stewart goes down in the penalty area.
It's a penalty.
The referee's given the penalty. Penalty then for Sunderland. Here he comes, Stewart at the north end. Roll! Save, but he's going to put it in!
Yeah!
Ross Stewart puts in the rebound.
Get in!
1-0 to Sunderland. Roberts running at Giles, edge of the area. Roberts still going, leaves it for Ahmad. Ahmad in the box, trying to get on his left foot.
Oh, what a goal!
Ahmad,
unbelievable.
On his left, rolls over after an exquisite finish. 2-0 to Sunderland, and that was just beauty.
Total Sport. On the station with Newcastle and Sunderland commentary exclusively live.
BBC Radio Newcastle. On the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker.
Play BBC Radio Newcastle.
And on your radio.
The sound of the North East is BBC Radio Newcastle.
With the BBC News at 2, I'm Anna Preston. 10 people have been killed.